What is up, RotoGrinders? For the first time this season, welcome to the NFL Pick 6 Show. Week 1, usual suspects as always. We got John Daigle, ETR, established the run. Rich Hribar, sharp football analysis. Two of the smartest, two of the brightest minds in the business. Get comfortable. 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours, depending on, of commercial-free NFL DFS conversation starts right now. Hribar, what's up? Welcome to Week 1.
We made it. Here we are already ready to kick off. There's games tomorrow. There's a game Friday and, Sunday, Monday. They only gave us one Monday game to start the year, at least, instead of two. That was nice of them. But yeah, it's exciting to be back, man. It's good to see your familiar faces. We do talk in the off season a little bit, share what we're doing and watching. But it's nice to see you guys again.
Yeah, likewise. Feel the same. We that's part of our chemistry. I think we like each other. The people can tell. We like each other on and off camera. TJ, producer TJ, also in the conversation. We're bringing in TJ later, talking a little bit of movies. He's waving for the people. Actually, specifically Interstellar. We're talking about Interstellar, but that's in the back burner. We talk movies at the back end of the show. We front load it with about 90 minutes or so of NFL's DFS conversation. If it's your first time here at the show, it's a Pick 6 Show. Why is it called the Pick 6 Show? Because we focus on three main games, and then we circle back and give our favorite plays position by position as far as quarterbacks, running backs, and receivers. Also with us, it's John Daigle from ETR, established the run, rocking the setting the bar really high with the shirt. If you're watching us on the YouTube, hit that like button, do subscribe, do turn on notifications, and part of the perks for watching us is you get to see John's fabulous Scott Hall t-shirt.
Well, we're feeling good still. Wait till November when everyone's used to me in a hoodie and some kind of Chicago hazy IPA on this show. But right now, we're still fresh until we got to turn around the data for next week. But let's step back for a second because remember, this is probably the first time, perhaps ever, that all of us were asked by friends, listeners of the show through DMs, will all of you be back together? And the first time ever that I was like, I hope so, but we will see. And yet we have defied all odds. Here we are. This is the week where we are most likely to have new listeners, which I know is odd to us because we've been doing this so long together. But to introduce everyone, I scrolled back through the RotoGrinders podcast archive. So you'll have to tell me, Rich, but it went as far back as 2017. And that's when you were still on this show with a different iteration. So how long have you been doing this?
I don't even know what time is anymore. The Konami code I wrote in 2013. So that's how I've been doing this. I've been blessed to do it a long time. I'm glad that I don't have to do a real job. All you people that are actually working in the actual workforce and providing something to humanity, you're a lot better person than I am. You're doing a lot better of a service than what I'm doing for the world. But I want to say, it's been maybe 8 years. I don't know. We'd have to have Dan. Dan would know for sure exactly when it was. But I was doing it I think I did it for 3 or 4 years with Silva. Then I wasn't going to do it with you, and they tagged you and Mencio for 2 weeks, and then Dan, we did the big spiel, he got in the bat phone and threw the symbol in the sky and said you got to come back, and then me and you have been doing it ever since. We brought Dean in, and here we are.
And that was 2019, and Dean joined in 2020, and so this is now our 6th season, this iteration that I hope will be the last iteration of the Pick 6 as well. If you include the old men from the Muppets, who are producer TJ and Rob Coakley, who everyone will meet later too.
Is it cockroaches, Twinkies, and the Pick 6 Show? You just can't kill it off.
Can't get rid of us.
We'll survive everything. All right. Enough with the pleasantries. Love the pleasantries. Thrilled to see you guys. Love you guys. But the people want to see us dive in and talk about tonight's the 12 gamer. Again, we're not focusing on the Thursday night game, Dallas or Philly, or the game in Brazil, Kansas City, and the Chargers. The best game this week, unfortunately, no Baltimore and Buffalo. You can have some fun there in the showdown streets. No Minnesota or Chicago, but the 12 gamer, the 12 game main slate. Daigle, you generally have the honor of picking the 3 main games we focus on. So I will start with you. Kicking off the season, you just cannot wait to talk about the Cleveland Browns. That is our first game. Cincinnati at Cleveland. Cleveland getting 5.5 at home. 47.5 is the total. That is the highest total on the board that I'm seeing right now. I wrote down the lines earlier today. Things might have shuffled around, but there are 4 games. 47, again, the highest total on the board. 4 games tied at 47.5. No totals above 50 on the main slate. But yeah, we're getting Cincinnati at Cleveland, 5.5 to the home team. How do you see the Bengals and the Browns?
Zooming out a little bit for everyone, too, when we discussed FanDuel this year, they, like DraftKings, separated the night game. So the showdown slate now will feature the night game where we don't have to talk about that, even though I did enjoy it for cash games. It wasn't my favorite for tournaments, but it was always fun to sneak that game in. And also remember, week 1 is when they dropped salaries on us from a month ago. And so that's when everyone's running in and cash games and optimals are just flooding with the same exact players because they're popping for salaries. And that's why this game initially jumps out, because there's a lot of players due to salary reasons that are popping right now. They're going to be played in like head-to-heads and will naturally trickle the ownership into tournaments. And I think that's why this was an interesting one to talk about, because we'll get to San Francisco, Seattle later on. But I initially tuned into this game thinking that I understood how people were going to play Chase Brown, like the obvious cash game players. But I expected ownership to be more flooded towards the 49ers, and that doesn't look like the case at all. It seems like a lot of people are just going to naturally be playing this game, whether they spend down for Joe Flacco to spend up elsewhere or get expensive with Joe Burrow doubles. And that's what makes it so interesting, because we do have this small sample of Zach Taylor coaching for Cincinnati, 1-5 in week 1's, top 20 points in only one of those 6 games. But because of that, I feel like that's why he ran Joe Burrow in the starting offense out there. It's only 26 dropbacks in the preseason. I understand it's a very small sample, but maybe it matters that Joe Burrow completed 75% of his passes. Maybe it matters that, and it helped them so much that they potentially knocked the rust off. So I do think it is interesting that this is one of those situations that could go either way, but the way the field is playing is at least to start saying we want a lot of these pieces.
Yeah, you mentioned the salaries. It's an interesting conversation, and I think an overarching thought is just that you should really like your lineups week 1. And a lot of these players, their salaries is going to go up, and there's a lot of rookies that seem underpriced as well. We'll see how that goes, but I read a bunch of optimal stuff before the show, and just some of the prices really pop, and it seems like some of these guys theoretically could be 1 or 2K too cheap. And just generally as the season goes, the cap tends to get tighter. It's pretty loose for week 1. That's kind of how I see it, Rich. I think, yeah. So that's my first thought is, if it's a loose cap, I understand why we use these cheap quarterbacks, but I know Joe Flacco's 4.9 on DK, and it really opens stuff up. But I feel like I can still get mostly what I want and get a quarterback I like too. That's kind of my general thought process. So I don't think Flacco is this great play. But your take here, Rich, feel free to take off as far as the Bengals, the Browns. You can hit both sides.
Yeah, first lineup I built this week just as a placeholder of just some of the guys after I wrote up the games, just saying these are the guys I just would loosely want to play, and I had $11,800 for the last spot. I was like, all right, yep, it's gonna be like that in week 1. Yeah, and that's what happens on a slate like this. I mean, when you're looking at some of the early projected ownership, Flacco doesn't even draw that to be that popular because of that. I think that there's just a lot of money left over for you to kind of get some higher price pieces. I think when you're looking to save salary, there's just a couple squares that we'll get to that people are going to really kind of glom onto, like a Emeka Egbuka and stuff like that are just really cheap. So you'll have a lot of money to play over with. And remember that as a quarterback slate too, we have Jalen Hurts on Thursday night, Josh Allen and Lamar face each other on Sunday night. Mahomes plays on Friday night. It's really Jaden Daniels and Burrow as kind of the head pieces at quarterback, as the pay up pieces. So if you are playing for Flacco, you're going to be playing for a lot of you're going to be going against a lot of guys that could drop big time hammers on you, or you'll just be going into a field of similar guys in a similar bucket. But I mean, there are reasons to kind of look at Flacco. I mean, he has that Jameis Winston gene, that Ryan Fitzpatrick gene, where he can create his own game script because of the turnovers. And this happened when his 5 starts happened with the Browns last year. It even happened with the Colts last year, where if you look at when he was with the Browns, I mean, he was QB 15 or higher in all 5 starts. He averaged 20 fantasy points per game. We're looking at this Bengals team and we're looking at this defense as one we want to continue to attack based on last year. It's the preseason. We want to go crazy, but they once again couldn't stop the run in the preseason. They fired. Big Lou was the scapegoat last year. He fell on the sword for, Zach Taylor. They bring in Al Golden. We don't really know if he's going to be wave some magic wand and fix this defense. So the Browns pieces do become a little interesting when you kind of move into that direction. We don't know what's going to happen at running back with them. I imagine it's going to be some mix of Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford. Mary Kay Cabot kind of said hey, we could see more Jerome Ford. I do also believe if the game script kind of goes in a direction where the Bengals are ahead and it's more of a passing script for the Browns, that would be more of a signal for Jerome Ford just for the pass protection and you just don't see a lot of rookies operate in the pass game early on in their NFL careers. And there'll be several instances where we'll probably discuss this too across the board. I think if you drafted a lot of week one rookie running backs, everyone's kind of set up to maybe let down a little bit, except for in DFS where some reason FanDuel decided to price Travion Henderson at $4,700. Makes no sense. But I do think it does set up to where Jerome Ford sets up to be the back that would be kind of on for the most snaps, unless you really think the Browns are going to be able to kind of hang around and push this thing. But that's kind of where we're starting. But this is a game that offers a few cheapies on the Brown side, and we know on the Bengals you got to pay up for.
Rich, I don't know if you touched on Njoku. I'm seeing Njoku as one of the more popular tight ends across on both sites. Yeah. How do you feel about Njoku being kind of sort of somewhat chalky? Is he one of your preferred tight ends this week?
Yeah, these linebackers were a group that we targeted all last year. They really didn't stop any tight ends. They're 28th in completion rate, 21st in yards per target, 27th in touchdown rate allowed to the position. When we last saw Flacco play with the Browns, he peppered David Njoku when he was in the field. You also, if you want to punt, maybe Harold Fannon's drawing live here. I don't know if you really need him either, though. But I think the Browns have signaled they want to be a more two tight end team. They don't want to be as much 11 personnel as they've been kind of when they acquired Deshaun Watson and tried to make that transition into a drop back team. I think they want to run the ball more. I just don't think they're going to be a good enough team to do it. But I do think they're going to run a lot more two tight end stuff. So yeah, Flacco is Njoku is a pretty obvious play, I think, for kind of the cash salary saving tight end. And then if you do want to punt, Fannin does become interesting. So I do think he's going to play in the base offense.
I guess that makes sense when there's what your wide receiver 3 is Jamari Thrash. The depth isn't quite there for Cleveland. What do you got, Daigle?
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's hard to know how to spend the salary. If you do spend down for one of these cute guys you're just rounding at your stacks with, like a Jermaine Burton or a Harold Fannin, but there are reasons to play them. Fannin, for example, Kevin Stefanski's offense has targeted tight ends at a top 9 rate every single season he's been in the league. And it's like you said, Dean, they just really have nowhere else to go. Jerry Jeudy was highly dependent on whether Jameis Winston was under center. Maybe you get the same run out that you had from Winston with Joe Flacco in this game. We think he goes wild, but also Jerry Jeudy catching 15+% ownership in a week 1 slate where we're wide open is not really something I'm highly interested in. I'd much rather just run it back on the other side with all the Bengals. That's also why, Chase Brown, you don't have to say much. It's the same thing we said last year where there's no skeleton key in fantasy football. The only stat that really matters is are you going to get the touches? And then it's our job to project if that player is actually going to get those touches. And it's the same exact depth chart practically. Taj Brooks is behind him now, a day 3 running back. But it's the same depth chart that Chase Brown got all the touches last year, 23.5 touches per game, 5.5 targets per week whenever Zach Moss got injured. And now here's this Browns defense, as Rich mentioned, not only struggled against the run this preseason, but also last year, league high rate of 15-yard runs against them. So everyone's going to play Chase Brown. You can play Chase Brown with Joe Burrow in those double stacks if you want, because you can get so cheap elsewhere. It just gets interesting whenever you're trying to spin down for one of those players.
If you're going to build through Brown or Chase, you had to pick one. What would you pick, Daigle?
I would go Burrow just because, like Rich said, the ceilings we're talking about. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be the cash game quarterback for the rushing floor. There will be another guy we talk about. I believe everyone will be spending down for on DraftKings if they don't spend up at quarterback. But I think I would go Burrow and Chase and Higgins and just try to soak everything up through the passing touchdowns, which, yes, we're expecting to regress. Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow were one of only 5 quarterbacks in the last 4 years to throw for 30 red zone touchdowns. But as we always talk about when we move into offseason work and then start trickling it into week 1 work, We just don't know when that regression begins happening in the beginning of the season. And so T. Higgins last year was typically a player I never drafted in fantasy leagues because his ADP was at the second, third round turn, and yet he never stood out as a wide receiver one that you wanted that much early capital into whenever he played alongside Jamar Chase. Last year was finally like the one time he stood out in a league of his own and made Jamar Chase better. In the 12 starts he made alongside Chase, T. Higgins averaged 8.5 targets, was the wide receiver 8 in fantasy points per game in that time. So I think I'd rather just try to soak up all the receiving touchdowns and cross my fingers Chase Brown doesn't get in, or I find players who can respond to Chase Brown's results.
You got anything else here, Hribar, as far as the Bengals and the Browns, or shall we scoot along?
No, yeah, I think it's just more tournament style. If you're gonna, stack the Bengals for a tournament instead of trying to play these guys in cash games. I mean, the Browns, for all the issues they had, I mean, they still were a really good defense at pressuring the quarterback. They actually led the NFL in pressure rate. Jim Schwartz has given Joe Burrow a lot of issues. Even last year, for the issues the Browns had, the Bengals had 2 really mad offensive games against the Cleveland Browns. Chase has only gone over 100 yards once against the Browns. Denzel Ward's given him his share of issues. It's not like you're fading these guys. It's just that when we're talking about paying the salary for these players, is there their respective ceiling to match these guys in terms of probability? And they haven't really shown it in this matchup very often. So I do think it becomes tougher to pay up for these guys. The one hang up, though, is that like Chase Brown is going to be so popular on the slate due to his salary, them being a favorite, him being a 3-down back. That'd be like the way you can kind of get leverage on Chase Brown directly. But I do think overall the Bengals, I think, are going to be a little bit overpriced on this slate for where I'm looking to kind of shop.
That's why I mentioned their ownership. I'll just be curious where it decides to come in, especially with a lot of people playing Browns all of a sudden naturally. I was hoping we'd get more ownership here, or I thought we would have more ownership with the 49ers whenever I first opened the slate and started building lineups. But right now, at least, it doesn't look that way.
No, and I don't think the 49ers will get there, but that game screams under.
Yeah, I completely agree as well. We will get there when we get there.
Interesting conversation with CMC at 7-3. We'll have that conversation on DK. Game number 2, it is the Dolphins. The Dolphins at Indianapolis. Indianapolis a home favorite here, -1.5. Feels like a strong loser leaves town game, like the first, game 1. But you lose this game, the coach is immediately on the hot seat. I know Vegas is telling us that McDaniel is most likely to get fired. Yeah, I'm down here in South Florida, so my opinions are kind of sort of somewhat skewed to hearing my friends talk about the Dolphins. And normally even the optimistic ones are telling me, the range of outcomes are not positive. The offseason not spectacular, or the coach speak, nothing really going well for the Dolphins here in Indy. They're just like dogs here, and they're in a dome, and a big total here, Rich. I think Miami's really interesting for tournaments, the large field stuff, if you want to throw some darts, because again, the range of outcomes are real. But Tyreek might just quit at halftime. That's in the realm. You never.
That's not happening.
Non-zero chance, though. It's not going to happen, but non-zero chance.
Dolphins and Colts. You got it, Hribar. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, this is the Miami Dolphins are one of the kind of more polarizing teams this offseason. The vibes are just generally bad, right? The head coach has got the highest odds to be the first coach fired. If you listen to Mike McDaniel, like, it sounds like this dude's just like over this shit. Like, even today when they asked him about Ollie Gordon, like, he was like, he could have all the touches or none of the touches. Maybe it's somewhere in between. Like, he's just, the season even started. The season hasn't even started yet.
One more day to death, right? One more day closer to death.
I mean, the offensive line still has like a ton of issues, like on paper, that we were hoping like it gels. They have a low bar to be better, but we're hoping that these 2 new guards, James Daniels and then Savi, who they took in the second round, are going to be an upgrade. Patrick Paul is definitely not going to be an upgrade at left tackle, but he's in year 2. Maybe we see some progression. And then Austin Jackson did not practice today. He was absolutely massive for Devin Achane when he was in and out of the lineup last season. So we'll kind of keep tabs on that. The Colts do have a good defensive front, and they've just made a ton of changes. This is who hired Big Lou. Big Lou went over to the Colts. They finally got rid of our guy, Gus Bradley. So we can't even count on them just like dropping back and playing cover 3 and not trying to rush the passer all game. Big Lou will probably try to mix it up. The Colts have made a lot of changes in free agency. They signed Charvarius Ward. They signed Cam Bynum. They got Kenny Moore still back as a nickelback. Nick Cross took a step forward last season. Like, this is a team in a transition defensively where if it comes together, they could be a pretty good defense. But we also still have the fastest team in terms of attributes on indoors in a dome. Like, it still could be fun, right? So like, you still kind of have to play that. It could be one of these games that pops and be fun, but it definitely takes a step of faith on the Dolphins side, because everything that we saw this preseason, Tyreek was injured, had an oblique, hasn't done anything until this week. Devin Achane had a calf injury, didn't do anything until this week. The small sample we saw of Tua this preseason, it was the same stuff. 6.3 air yards per attempt, only 5.5 yards per pass attempt, took 2 sacks. Like, the vibes are just really, really bad around the Dolphins. So if you want to play them and you think you're going to sneak in here, this is the week to do it, because outside of Devin Achane, really no one here is drawing any interest.
And what interests me the most about the Dolphins is, as everyone, if they're just tuning in, or people who have listened to years already know, I do like nuking offenses. I like to know where the ball's going to go whenever I stack teams. And this version does seem closer to the 2023 version without Jonnu Smith. We only had 3 guys getting the ball at all times. Maybe Darren Waller comes in and does something. I have my doubts personally. And so I'd much rather just play it through Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, and Devon Achane right now, who, at least in 2023, there was the only 3 players who had a double-digit target share for the Dolphins at all. Last year, Tyreek and Jalen Waddle were on the field for 111 plays without Jonnu Smith. And even in those iterations, Tyreek 30% target share, Waddle 25%, Achane 22%. Those are the 4 guys I think we can have with Tua indoors. And so it is at least interesting, because if they go off, I feel like we know who does go off to help Tua reach his ceiling.
The Darren Waller thing just only adds to a 32-year-old tight end coming out of retirement, and he's had some stuff as well. And
he's not even practice. Play.
He's not. He might not even. I saw he didn't practice today. By the way, Downs, I think, is officially off the injury report for the Colts. Just wanted to note that, so he should be good to go for the game. Daigle, the Colts. Do we like the Colts? If we're going Indy, are we thinking about Jonathan Taylor? We're going to throw some darts at Downs or Pittman. A lot of hype on Tyler Warren this offseason. Prized rookie coming in. Looks pretty good preseason-wise. I was impressed with the tape that I saw, but I don't pretend to know much about him outside of what I've seen and read. How interested are you in the Colts here against the Dolphins?
Yeah, the switch from Anthony Richardson, who literally had a depth of target 2.5 yards further than the next closest quarterback, to Daniel Jones, who was 31st in that category, is going to be something to monitor, especially with a guy like Tyler Warren, who did a majority of his damage through screens last year. But my concern, at least on DraftKings, y'all can tell me on FanDuel, is that I think Daniel Jones is actually the player, if they do not spend up for Jaden Daniels at quarterback, given the value, the cheapness, and the rushing floor Daniel Jones provides on DraftKings. I think that's where people go in cash games. And then I wonder how much that naturally trickles into tournaments, which makes me naturally higher on Jonathan Taylor, whose run out seems pretty great here. Not only like Khalil Herbert, a backup, moved to the practice squad, but last year the Dolphins were a team that we targeted consistently against the run. 32nd in missed tackles per attempt, 32nd in yards after contact per carry because of their inability to tackle, and they allowed the 5th highest rate of explosive runs as well. So Jonathan Taylor is definitely someone, to me, seems like he pops here in this slate and may even go overlooked a bit.
So ownership stuff on a Wednesday night. Obviously, this is fluid. This stuff changes. But as of right now, we have Danny Dimes at the 4th most popular quarterback on DK behind Daniels, Lawrence, and Burrows, right ahead of Baker Mayfield, May, and Murray. That's on DK. On FanDuel, like you kind of alluded to, not nearly as popular, less than 5% as of right now. I have to scroll way down. 2 or 3% over there, because that's just different as far as the build. Any interest in Danny Dimes, Hribar? I'm guessing no. You tell me.
No, zero. Absolutely none. Yeah, and I mean, listen, Miami's taken a lot of stuff this year for the secondary that they put together, and we'll see if maybe in the season this thing can course correct itself, because they added, Rasul Douglas and Juju Brents this past week. I doubt either of those guys really play significant snaps this week over Jack Jones and Storm Duck. So maybe, a guy like Michael Pittman, but like, this is like a week, like when you like try to sell yourself on a guy like Michael Pittman, like you just look at all the other guys that are available, right? Like this would be a great week if it was like week 7 and Michael Pittman was a value and you're trying to soak up them targets, but like, it's like not exciting to try to jam Michael Pittman into a lineup this week, right? It's not exciting to try to jam in Josh Downs with Daniel Jones, right? Just because there's so many cheap plays on the board. But the one thing about this Dolphins defense that's kind of overlooked is like this front seven is genuinely like it's a top 10 unit. I mean, they have pass rushers everywhere. They can stop the run. They were number 1 in yards allowed before contact to running backs last year. They were 10th in success rate against the run. Jonathan Taylor didn't play in this matchup last year, but the Colts had 0 success rushing in that game. But Bradley Chubb is back. Jalen Phillips is back. They had Matthew Judon. Chop Robinson was one of the best pressure rates per pass rush a year ago. The Zach Seilers, and like this is a really good front seven. And if you can pressure Daniel Jones, it doesn't matter who you're trotting in the secondary out. Like he's not going to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
I mean, so if the Dolphins can get home and they can create pressure here against this Colts offensive line that had a ton of injuries last year, they've had some moving pieces themselves. I mean, this is just kind of where this game kind of meanders along. Like we're putting faith in Daniel Jones, right? The Colts are putting faith in Daniel Jones. And like, we've just been down this road before. I just don't really see how we end up getting out of this one alive.
That's why the line that he's a 17-game starter, quote unquote, was so funny because it's like, no, we've seen this before. He's not a 17-game starter. Like they literally said he's our starter all season long. They purposely said he's a starter all season. 1-7,
there's no way that Shane Steichen's staring down that gun barrel every time after they play a game. So,
and it wasn't an endorsement in Jones. It was just like we hate Richardson just a little bit more, right? That's basically what it was, you know. And you have to spit it.
It was never a competition.
I think it's a lot of more, honestly.
Yeah, it was never a competition.
Yeah, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff and then he came asking out of games and all that kind of stuff. He probably needs a change of scenery. So I know I kind of besmirched Tyreek, but like knowing nothing else, like if you just sort of like Rip Van Winkle for a couple seasons and you woke up and you saw Tyreek Hill is 6'7" in the dome, on the turf in Indy, and he's going to be like 6% owned. That's where we currently have him. And
we had this whole conversation last year for like the whole back half.
Yes. Yeah, I tapped out, but I was the first, I think, to tap out on Tyreek. But you know what? New season, you never know. I'm just thinking, again, range of outcomes.
It's all about this offensive line. Like, it all comes back to this offensive line because no team faced 2 high safeties more than the Dolphins last year, and it's because they couldn't run anyone out of it. The first 2 years in Mike McDaniel's career, when they were there, like, teams would try to play coverage against them, and they would be able to run the football. Last year, they couldn't get anyone out of those coverages. And that's what it all comes back to. Can this offensive line create space for this run game? Because if not, we're going to see the same stuff over the top. I mean, you look at everything that Tua had last year. I mean, third highest rate of throws behind the line of scrimmage, lowest rate of deep throws. They had 3 passing touchdowns from outside the red zone. This is the fastest team in the NFL. It just fell off the table, the explosive plays. And it all comes back to this offensive line. They have to be able to establish the run. No pun intended for Daigle to be on the show, but it all comes down to this offense is predicated on being able to run the football to set up those shots to Tua, from Tua to Tyreek and Jalen Waddle on those like the deep digs and those crossers.
As I have prepared to close my laptop by 1:30 Eastern on Sunday, I just keep telling the way I've been saying it is this is the healthiest the offensive line will be all year. Right now, week 1, we got one shot at this. Before Tyreek Hill potentially is like 20% rostered next week. I will happily probably just go down swinging, but we'll see how the lineups trickle in on Sunday morning.
So the point I was trying to make, and again, I'm not necessarily endorsing this, but I just think it's interesting. I'm looking at our raw points projections, and I'm sort of scrolling down, and everybody raw points projections as far as receiver, their ownership's projected around like 19%, 18%, 15%. And the first one that stands out is Tyreek at 6%. Because nobody wants to click that button. And I understand, and you're laying it out, Rich, why. I totally get it, and I don't want to do it either. But then I'm thinking about, what about single entry contests? This is for large field. He's going to be like 1%, 2% in single entry contests. And
I think if you play this game, you just make the onslaught game of it. You would just stack this game. You would do Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, then you'd probably run back Tyler Warren, maybe Pittman or Downs, based on your preference. And you would live by that way. And you would say, hey, if this game sucks, I don't win any money. If it hits, there it is.
You don't like Tyreek necessarily as like an a la carte piece?
Not so much on this particular slate. There's just so much firepower on this slate. I'm open to the idea of it. If it's the thing is too, he's been hurt the entire offseason.
Yeah. There's a lot of There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff surrounding him. And I'm not endorsing him. I'm not trying to. I'm just thinking like game theory wise.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
After an off season of playing MLB DFS every day, I am now willing to just take on everything bad. I am so ready for volatility in 2025. Give me all the Tua and the Tyreek and everyone.
But yeah, I do think if you play this game, that's what you do. You would single entry, you would do single entry, lower field, onslaught, walk away.
All right. Game 3, you guys kind of alluded to this one. The third game is San Fran at Seattle. Just a 43.5 total. Seattle getting the 2.5 points here at home. I think one of the things you guys are going to talk about, you sort of alluded to it, we're expecting a really slow pace here in the Seattle-San Fran game. Daigle, I'll let you get us started. CMC, again, we talked about salaries. This guy used to be 10K, used to be 9K, and he's 7-3. 7-3 on San Fran. If you would think he's going to get 20 touches or so, but Jennings expected to play. He should be good to go. I meant to mention Achane declared himself to be 100% good to go for Miami also. Daigle, get us going as far as the Seahawks and the Niners.
And even though Juwan Jennings dapped up Kyle Shanahan, which adapt tells all, I mean, we're good to go here. I'm still curious after holding out, like how much he plays or if he's the kind of player who can bounce back after we don't know his practice regimen. Through the holdout. He wasn't necessarily an athlete at all. So I don't know what he's going to look like this week. I was initially excited to play the 49ers, if only because without Jennings, we knew where the ball was going. There's 4 players we need to discuss in Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and Ricky Pearsall. But now Jennings does expand all of that. So it makes it a little more complicated. Not only that, but it is one of those games where even intuition kicks in where we have Purdy playing, going on the road in Seattle, division matchup, week 1 with Sam Darnold, offensive line on the other side of the ball for Seattle that's completely healthy. And we do have this history of Mike McDonald versus Brock Purdy. Everyone remembers 2023 whenever Purdy and Lamar Jackson, it's not apples to apples because Mike McDonald was coaching the Ravens at that time, but Purdy they were co-favorites for MVP, and then Mike McDonald just absolutely drowned Purdy until he got benched in the second half of that game with multiple picks, no touchdowns. Then last year, we saw Purdy have 3 touchdowns, but still held under 200 yards. And then, of course, the last game when Purdy did quite well, that opened up in the second quarter whenever Deebo Samuel had that massive 75-yard touchdown. But overall, I think for Seattle, we expect this unit to be elite. But when we're talking about going back and forth, I do think Robert Saleh, long-term, is going to be a positive note for this 49ers defense. But I do wonder how long it's going to take for the defense to actually click. Like, this is still a team that lost so many pieces in the offseason. They spent their first 5 draft picks on defensive players, and I believe they're starting 3 rookies per their depth chart right now. And so I don't know if they're a team that's going to be able to stop what Seattle wants to do on offense very sluggishly and slowly. So I think they just kind of get dragged into a match in the mud, pretty much, as opposed to like the 49ers offense that we've talked about with season-long projections that are now returning with Trent Williams at full strength and going to be able to explode and be efficient everywhere. And so that's naturally my concern just with this game.
Yeah, Rich, your thoughts on San Fran? Feel free to jump over to Seattle as well. And the Jennings thing, are we sure he was actually hurt, or is that just kind of a made-up hamstring? We don't know officially. Yeah,
we don't know. I mean,
either way, he held out though. Like
yes.
that we do know. That we do know is that he wasn't practicing, and we lived this last year, and we're gonna have to try to do it with Terry McLaurin too at the start of the year. But we saw Jamar Chase the first month of the season be the wide receiver 37 in targets after his holdout. CeeDee Lamb had 2 wide receiver 1 scoring weeks through 5 weeks last year, and it talked about him missing training camp with Dak Prescott, why it was a big deal. We had Brandon Ayuk last year be completely lost until his injury. He had 1 game over 50 yards after his holdout. Like, these guys still need this time, in the offseason. And the fact that he held out, he also gave runway for Ricky Pearsall to be installed as like a focal point of like the early season game plan, right? Like by products. They didn't know if he was going to be available. They're just assuming like, hey, we'd love to have you back when you're ready to come back, but if you're not going to come back, we will move on. The other factor is too with the 49ers is they're really tough to kind of like harp back to any type of target stuff that happened last year because so much was in motion and they're getting CMC back. Like they're a player that is going to command, upwards 18 to 20% of the targets himself with Kittle. So I don't even really think it's worth going down like the road of all the splits the 49ers had last year, or even previous splits with George Kittle based on who is available, because there's no Deebo Samuel anymore either in this offense. So I think this is going to be kind of a new leaf 49ers to a degree in terms of how the way the targets shake out amongst their wide receivers. Ricky Pearsall joined a moving train last year. Remember when Ricky Pearsall came back from being on PUP from his hamstring injury in the preseason, getting shot, he came on board while Kittle was cooking. CMC had just come back. It was CMC's first game back too. He came back. Deebo was already still there. Juwan Jennings already had a little bit of rapport going now. And then he onboarded that moving train and was kind of lost in the sauce until the end of the year. So now he's been getting kind of installed this offseason. It's like, hey, we're counting on you in year 2. So we'll see what happens. The other thing too is we have Clint Kubiak, who was with the 49ers 2 years ago. We have Robert Saleh back with the 49ers, who was the defensive coordinator of all those teams with Kubiak. So like these teams have a lot of familiarity with each other. We also have Sean Hockley's crew on this game. Like number one in penalties. Like if you didn't think this game was gonna be slow enough, like then we got the number one.
We're digging deep with the referee.
Yeah. Well, we have a guy on the site that does the ref analysis for us too. So it's like, yep. So it's like, yeah, like this game is a lot pulling it that could just it could just toe under, right? Like this is a lot pulling where it's like maybe this game isn't like super exciting. It's a low scoring game. It's a lot of running, a lot of getting the ball to the running backs in this game in totality. Maybe that's how this game just doesn't kind of like go nuclear.
The issue with the running back thing too, no issue for me for Christian McCaffrey. If you differ, Rich, let me know. But obviously at salary, at cost, I'm still playing Christian McCaffrey, especially on DraftKings. We're talking about a guy who came back last year despite being injured. This is why it's funny to see the reactions about Brian Robinson and just swapping a pick for him. Because even when McCaffrey was like on his deathbed last year, he comes back for 3 full games and Kyle Shanahan runs him to the ground with 56 touches to Jordan Mason's 7. Like, did not care at all. This man was clearly less efficient and injured. And so I'm going to play an every touch McCaffrey, no matter how I perceive this game script playing out. Having said that, it's complicated on the other side of the ball because all we've seen all offseason talk about bad vibes players for Kenneth Walker is him being out. Perhaps that was for health management. But he was dealing with a foot injury, which he has a chronic history of going back to college. And Zach Charbonnet, we saw last year, was very good. Like everyone talks about how explosive Kenneth Walker is, and that's true. The man's a freight train. But actually, Charbonnet had a higher rate of 10-yard runs in his starts than Walker did in his start. So, yeah, I just don't know. I think the Seattle backfield is far more ambiguous than people are giving it credit for because even a few extra touches for Charbonnet is going to limit Walker's ceiling.
By the way, you sent me down this rabbit hole here, Rich. You mentioned Hockley. I remember his dad, Ed, Guns Hockley.
Oh, yeah.
So I wonder if he worked out with his son, Sean, and I can't quite tell. I feel like Ed had more of the, nobody liked to call first down like Ed Hockley. He thoroughly enjoyed flexing those muscles. He'll tell you which way the gym is.
And side note, one of us on the show also, to connect all three of us, I met Sean Hockley at a Cubs game this offseason. And, of course, I'm the only person who would also recognize Sean Hockley. But I just went up to him and talked to him. And basically he said his job is the least thankful one to have of any job in America. I was like, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And it's also, if we don't know who you are, you're probably doing a good job. That kind of thing. Yeah. If we know your name, now we know his name kind of, I don't want to say nepotism, but, it probably didn't hurt that his dad was Ed Hockley.
The guns are a tad smaller than his dad's, but they're still there. They exist.
His dad was a lawyer, too.
Well, a lot of the NFL refs, I don't know if it still is, they used to be
they weren't employees. Yeah, I don't know if they still are or not.
Which seems weird. Yeah, they think they're lawyers during the week and NFL refs, on the weekend.
Well, that's why his dad, whenever he would juxtapose a penalty, just is going on, it's like he would explain everything in super details. Like, yep, just give us a call, man.
So we mentioned Pearsall, right? Pearsall is 4.5 on DK. We kind of mentioned several times how a lot of the rookies just seem underpriced, especially if you're in the best ball streets. You're like, this guy's like a 5th rounder, and Tet's like a 3rd rounder, and he's 5'2". Egbuka's like a 4th rounder. He's 4'6". Do we have a power rankings, Rich? Like all 3 of those pop. If I'm right now, if I sort by point per dollar on our rankings, it's Egbuka, Pearsall, and Tet. And then Calvin Ridley's 5K. Like, it's really, really easy to make good lineups, which is why, like, I don't want to mention. I heard some names getting thrown out there, and I understand something goofy might happen. Like, by all means, you might get MVS scoring 2 touchdowns, but there's no way MVS is going to be on any of my lineups or being close to it. But could you power rank how you feel?
I know he's not going to be in any of your lineups.
No chance.
But Braden's.
Like, shout out to Braden. Is Braden?
Would you need Braden's play of the day if he's in the chat?
I don't know if he's in the chat, but he asked if we were going to talk about Efton Chisholm tonight. Like,
of course.
So he's there. Shout out to him. But I think Pearsall is a very sketchy play this week. There's been a lot of reports, from the internal beats that he hasn't actually been great in camp, that he struggled to get open. We're getting Jennings back. It's not a good matchup at all. When Seattle especially when they had Reek Woolen available with Devin Witherspoon, like, they shut wide receivers down last year. So it's really tough. Like, I mean, they were 4th in yards per target allowed to wide receivers. They were really good against outside receivers too, as well. So it's like, is it even like a smash spot for him, especially in the game talks, like the context that we're talking about? Because when you brought up the other 2 guys, there's an argument for Jags Panthers to cook, and Tet is part of the windfall. There, when you look at Falcons Bucks, there's a chance that game can go, and Egbuka to be part of that windfall. This game might not be that good.
Yeah.
That inherently pulls like down in the process. And like I said, and again, we have CMC. If you're also, when we're looking at the 49ers week 1, who are their best players on offense right now? You're still naming 2 other players before you get to Ricky Pearsall, right? Yeah. Like, you still are. It's CMC and George Kittle. So easy. I still imagine those 2 guys, like, the offense is still going to kind of get through these guys first. And when you look at kind of where Seattle was at their weakest last year in Mike McDonald and Arden Darte's first season, like, they were bad against tight ends and they struggled up front. They did get, DeMarcus Lawrence, but he's more of a pass rusher. So I do think it is more of a CMC Kittle type game if you're playing it through the 49ers that way.
CMC versus Gibbs and Bijan. He's the 3rd most expensive guy on TK. I think he's the 5th most expensive on FanDuel. CMC. Is he behind those guys, or it's a pretty kind of coin tossy for you, Daigle?
I still like CMC, not only for price, but again, we're getting every touch. I'm a little bit worried. Like, I definitely understand the range of outcomes with the Falcons Bucks. I am a little bit concerned about that Caleb McGarry injury for Michael Penix. But at the same time, like, if we think the Bucks are the ones who score the most points, we know that's how naturally people are going to play it, given Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka's ownership. Then we understand Penix is the one you want over Bijan Robinson, and you can naturally get the Drake London that way. So I don't hate it.
If you are playing Seattle, I mean, Daigle kind of talk about, like, the 49ers are going to be playing 2 rookies in the secondary to start the year. Marcus Sigel is going to play. He's going to be their nickelback, or Upton Stout's going to be a nickelback. Marcus Sigel's going to be starting at safety. They made this big youth movement. Fred Warner is now their oldest defender, their starting defender, which is crazy. He's 28 years old. They're hoping to, like, recoup Bryce Huff, have his best success under Robert Saleh in New York. They do get Bosa back, at least. When he was out of the lineup, they struggled to create any type of pass rush, and then they're going to be rotating CJ West and, Alfred Collins, on the defensive line with Mikael Williams, who's expected to start. Like, they are playing a lot of young guys. So Kubiak with familiarity, like, they're going to be there's going to be a lot of play action here, a lot of tight splits from Kubiak and Sam Darnold. Funny is Clay Kubiak is now the 49ers offensive coordinator. So there's just more Kubiaks involved in this game. But 49ers, though, it might be a transition. Just they have so many young players that are going to be playing snaps defensively. I know Darnold's not sexy. I'm not saying to play Darnold, but there could be opportunities to shot plays for, like, a JSN or someone like that if you want to get real cute.
I was doing a quick scroll, and I think again, I don't know if you need it, but I think the best 3K receiver available is Torrey Horton. I don't know if you need that, if you're going to go that low. Just kind of going through it. I don't know, Daigle, if you kind of went through the salaries and stuff like that, your favorite 3K, nonsense player. A lot of hype for the preseason. Looks like he's going to, be a good draft pick. We'll see how that turns out. A lot of people are souring on Kupp already. Of course, he's as healthy as he ever is going to be. But probably the wide receiver 3, I presume. And again, I say all this with a qualifier. Like, I don't know how much we need it, but is there a dirt cheap receiver that you could top in somewhere in the 3Ks instead of Torrey Horton?
No, I don't think I can get worse than Torrey Horton.
What is Leggett? What is Leggett this week?
4,200 on DraftKings.
Yeah.
Dontavian Wicks is 3,400. That would depend on Jaden Reed.
Yeah. Yeah. Roman Wilson, 3K.
No.
AD Mitchell, 3-4.
Josh Downs, I believe, was full today, so we're not going to get there.
Yeah.
It's not week 7 yet, Dean. Give it till week 7, then we'll start naming off 3K players.
Fair point. Anything else here as far as
or just do it at tight end where it doesn't matter.
That's true. Jawan Johnson's just sitting there.
Oh, they paid him. They did pay him. All right, we got anything else here as far as Seattle and San Fran, or shall we circle back and give our favorite plays position by position?
Because this one's going to be longer than the 3 games. It usually never works out that way. Usually in the 3 games, we kind of cover our favorite plays throughout the slate. I think it's going to be opposite for week 1 this week.
I wanted to talk about the chalk for week 1 because everyone's filtering in the same direction.
If you have takes, right? We all think we know, right? Week 1 is when you're probably most wrong. The biggest range of outcomes. We feel like we know what's exactly going to happen, and collectively. I'm not speaking for you guys necessarily, but we all kind of have our general takes, and there's group thought out there as well. So if there's ever probably never a better time to be a contrarian than week 1. Also, never a better time to get yourself some NFL DFS content. If you're looking for access this season, why not get more bang for your buck with Combo Pro? Limited time, you get yourself a first month of Combo Pro for just $79 and change, which is only $5 more than NFL a la carte, NFL by itself, for the monthly sub. In addition, you get, not just football, college football, baseball, basketball, NBA. That's the same thing. WNBA, PGA, everything but NASCAR, all the other sports, MMA, everything else you can think of under the sun. Get yourself that. Check out the link there in the description on the YouTube. While you're clicking that, hit that like button and subscribe and turn on those notifications. Do all those things. Hit all the bells, hit all the whistles to help us keep coming back year after year. All right. Rich, it is yours as far as other quarterbacks we like. You did mention a very important thing at the top of the show. No Lamar, no Allen, no Dak, no Jalen Hurts. Daniels is the top dog. It's not necessarily the best matchup, but maybe he's matchup proof with that wheels. But how are you seeing a quarterback? And I think we do have to talk about Daniels specifically.
Filter that to wide receiver too, by the way, because we are missing Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown. Like the expensive players are kind of gone on this slate, which is why it's hard to spin down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Daniels is going to be the cash game play. I think for many, just it's you don't have the salary restriction, and you have this one guy of the specific archetype. Because even Burrow, while having a high ceiling, for Burrow to hit his ceiling, like he has to throw 3+ passing touchdowns, and flirt with 300 passing yards. That doesn't exist in the range of outcomes for Daniels because of the mobility and the rushing. And he might be scrambling a lot on Sunday because the Giants are another team. Like their front seven looks awesome on paper. We'll see how early they gel. But I expect the Giants to be a much more competitive football team to open the season, whether it translates to wins or not. I just think they're going to be a much more competitive football team because their defense looks like it's going to take a huge step forward. And then but no matter what you think about Russell Wilson until the bridge to Jackson Dart, he is a massive upgrade on what they put on the field under center a year ago. So the games are probably going to be a little bit tighter for the Giants. But I'll let Daigle talk about Drake May because he made Drake May a topic in the initial thing. So I'll let him talk about Drake May. I'll talk about Trevor. I want to talk about Trevor Lawrence.
Okay. I also like Bryce Young, so that works out.
All right. I want to talk about Trevor Lawrence. I don't think we're going to have a New Orleans 2024 run out the opening 2 weeks, but the Jaguars, the opening 2 weeks of the season, I think are going to be adjacent to a team that comes out hot and then they go to hell for a section of the schedule. And everyone's gonna be like, were we undervaluing the Jaguars? Outside of BTJ, of course. And then they just have a really rough gauntlet. But these opening 2 weeks, the layout for them is really tremendous. And we were just looking for kind of proof of concept this preseason of what Liam Cohen was going to bring to the table. And it was the same stuff he brought to the table with Baker Mayfield. Last year, Daigle already hinted upon Anthony Richardson's depth of target last year. That quarterback that was number 2 in air yards per target was Trevor Lawrence last year. Not really his game. I mean, he attempted even a career high 15% of his passes, 20 or more yards downfield. Where Cohen directly came in and impacted Baker Mayfield was in the quick passing game. He had his quickest time to throw since his rookie season. When Baker did hold the football, we saw some of those issues that Baker tends to have. And this preseason, Trevor Lawrence, 5.6 air yards per pass attempt, quick passing game. We're not, he was efficient. He was 14 of 17, but it was just getting the ball out of his hands, easy completions. This offense is going to rely on Yak. And one of the things when you look at the Carolina Panthers, they bring back a Jairo Vero as defensive coordinator. That really in the back end, they did make some changes up front because they had a historically bad run defense, and they did pour some money into the defensive line, and they also get Derek Brown back, which is a big deal. But on the back end, they really just added Trayvon Moehrig from the Raiders. And, Avero was a guy that we consistently knew what he was going to do, like Gus Bradley. I mean, they played man coverage at the 26th highest rate in the NFL. They played cover 3 at the 3rd highest rate. And for even the struggles Lawrence had last year, he was awesome against cover 3 still. 7th in completion rate, 6th in yards per pass attempt. Also, Liam Cohen, a lot of familiarity with this defensive coordinator for his time at Tampa Bay. And then the Carolina just has so much to fix on the back end. I mean, they were 29th in completion rate allowed, 28th in yards per pass allowed, the league highest touchdown rate. They were dead last in pressure rate. It does set up well for Trevor Lawrence if there's going to be a time to play him and get him out and kind of get rid of like the ADP priors, because Trevor Lawrence was a guy that was maybe wasn't even drafted in 1 quarterback leagues, right? But he's probably going to be ranked as a top 12 quarterback these opening 2 weeks of the season against the Panthers and against the Bengals.
Daigle?
So a couple of the plays where I think the numbers make sense starts with Bryce Young on the other side of the ball. When we're just carrying over stats from last year, we know you could do anything. You won it against the Jaguars, but if we expect it to be an up-tempo game, they were still dead last in yards per attempt and first down rate passing the ball, allowing the chains to move easily, which I think naturally helps out Bryce Young, who's not only a cheap price, but remember, whenever he returned off the bench for Andy Dalton, also averaged just over 5 extra rushing points per game. So that's how we can get there with cheap quarterbacks. And DFS, not to mention trading Adam Thielen. This is a 2-man target share since Chuba Hubbard does not earn targets. This is Ted McMillan, who's catching around 14 to 16% ownership, and Xavier Legette now, who I know everyone wants to spin down for. So you can naturally tack on Bryce Young with a couple of the pieces on the Jaguars and hope to get an explosive offense. I'm thinking the same thing for Drake May and the Raiders. Like the Raiders' depth chart in their secondary, first of all, is abysmal. And I do think Pete Carroll, like Kyle Shanahan with his offensive line, is one of those guys who can take like complete chicken shit in the secondary and turn it into chicken salad for sure. But it might just be honestly too early and too much. We're talking about an indoor environment as well with Josh McDaniels and just better surrounding cast. Drake May last year in his 10 full starts was a fringe QB1, a QB10 in that time for fantasy. And like I mentioned with Bryce Young, Drake May also tacked on that extra 4.5 rushing points per week. Cleve TA, our friend Cleve TA, who writes up just a quick like betting season preview that I always like to check in on because he's just so sharp with his futures bets. He had a really interesting stat that I had no one mention. I heard no one mention this offseason, and that was Geno Smith has only played 15 games indoors his entire career, and he had a positive EPA in all 15 games. Like I do in spending the most cap in free agency on defense, the Patriots do have some absolute dogs. They have elite talent on that side of the ball. But we're talking about Christian Gonzalez potentially missing this game. And Geno Smith's the kind of guy where, like, it's a shaky offensive line. It has some new pieces, but it holds up. Like, you don't have to squint to see the scenario where, like, Drake May and Geno Smith are suddenly going back and forth in explosive plays here. So I think it's a fun environment to get a hold of. And then the one also that's not going to be fun at all, but everyone's playing James Conner. And I can just say, well, the ball, we believe, is going to Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride indoors. I'm not expecting pushback, but just to naturally pivot off of James Conner. And then everyone will also be playing Alvin Kamara, whether they think it's a negative or positive game script. Kyler Murray doubles also are intriguing since, yes, we were disappointed in what we saw last year, a career low in rushing points, but we also just don't know if that's the way he's going to go, if that's the quarterback he is now, or if it's going to be a different iteration of their offense, or at least a better outcome for their offense, I should say.
You mentioned Drake May. I want to note that Diggs not on the injury report with his knee. I guess Diggs is the obvious pair for May. Are you digging deeper than that? Like any interest in Douglas or Booty or Williams or Hunter Henry, or is that just being too ambitious. I know May can kind of get there on his own. He's got some wheels, right? But if we're gonna pair him with somebody, I guess Diggs is the obvious guy, right?
It would be Henry for me, just because I believe in the cash game play being Njoku. I'm just going to naturally drag along my tight end with my stack this week, assuming it makes sense. Not like a Darren Waller. If I play
also play Henderson. These linebackers for the Raiders, like first of all, like PFF does rankings before the season on like every position, and we do too at our site. And we had the Raiders secondary last. They had the Raiders secondary last. Their linebackers are just like a bunch of dudes that have bounced around. Jermaine Pratt, Landon Roberts, and don't forget where Josh McDaniels last got railroaded out of, and he earned that railroading. But you telling me he's the one to score some points on the Raiders? You don't think that he wants to score some points on Mark Davis? I mean, Travion against these linebackers could be real interesting. Travion's 4,700 on FanDuel. And I know that's not a full PPR site, but like, man, that's really cheap. That's really cheap.
But where is he on the depth chart? That's what I want to know. Where is he on the depth chart?
Who cares? If he's in the end zone, it don't matter where he is on the depth chart.
He averaged 7.3. He averaged 7.3 yards per touch last year, Dean. Doesn't matter where he is on the depth chart.
You're bringing up revenge.
Josh McDaniels going to try to score some points in this game.
How do you bring up revenge? We're talking about quarterbacks and the double revenge game of Justin Fields versus Aaron Rodgers. We're just going to just ignore it like it's not happening.
Yeah, we should ignore that. Like you watch Red Zone, Dean, you're not going to see that game on Red Zone.
And Pete Carroll.
I'm going to see like a tire commercial.
And Pete Carroll kept Patrick Graham. They retained Patrick Graham. They didn't bring in a new defensive coordinator. So yeah, it's they're gonna be running a lot of the same stuff, which is very weak personnel, man.
Yeah,
it's a 12-game slate, but it's an 11-game slate, right? Pittsburgh and the Jets. I mean, they're playing football theoretically, but all right.
But yeah, I do like Kyler too. Also, is I know Kyler and Lawrence are gonna be tough for people to play because they feel like they got burnt. But like this is when you play these guys, like because everyone's gonna be waiting for proof of concept. People are like, I can't play Lawrence until he shows me he's good. I can't play Kyler until he shows me good. This is the time to play those.
It's been 5 years. Like Lawrence, this is year 6 for Lawrence. Like, and I hear the pitch and it makes sense, but at some point.
But these guys have never had a good fantasy game.
Well, I mean, here it happens. And the Arizona thing, I don't totally get Arizona. I know the matchup against New Orleans, of course, on the turf, have a good time. But you mentioned Marv. You mentioned him in passing, and I mean, again, this is still my best ball brain. I thought he was going way too high in best ball, like 27 or something like that. I did not totally get that. I didn't understand it. I know he put up some muscle on in the offseason, which is that good? I'm not sure. I couldn't say, but
David Boston now.
Well, I mean, this is another defense that got old.
Inoculated.
They brought in 2 new safeties and Justin Reed and Julian Blackmon. Tyrann Mathieu retires. They lose Paulson Adebo in free agency. Marshawn Lattimore got traded in season last year. Their top cornerback, Alontae Taylor, who looks like he's going to be on track to play, gave the most receiving yards in the NFL last year. They bring in Isaac Yiadom, who's been bounced. He's been on like 8 teams. They're hoping Kool-Aid McKinstry takes a step forward. Like it's the back end isn't good here. You're hoping Brandon Staley, who they brought in, can really kind of turn this thing around for them. But like the Saints are a really old defense, and they're not very strong on the back end on paper either.
Judy is $100 cheaper than Marvin Harrison Jr. on DraftKings. Like no one's going to click MHJ despite only wanting to play him every week last year.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
And he's pivot because we're going to get the running backs because Connor is in like an amazing spot. So you're kind of going off of playing off of if Connor doesn't score a touchdown. Because Connor's not a guy that's going to shadow realm you in like the receiving game. So if Connor doesn't score a touchdown, now you're okay playing your Cardinals passing stack.
So that is a good segue. Who wants to talk about Connor and the running backs? Who wants it?
You can go first, Rich.
Yeah, because Connor is a really good play, unfortunately. Like it just is. You look at him last year, still hyper efficient. He was 5th in missed tackle rate. He was 5th in explosive play rate. He had 49 plays of 10 or more yards. I was 5th amongst all running backs. Also, it's just the matchup and the game environment, right? So we're catching them 6.5 point. They are on the road, but they're 6.5 point favorites. Arizona ran the ball at the 7th highest rate with a lead last year. Connor was second in the league in success rate as a runner with the lead. In wins, he averaged 87.5 rushing yards per game, which was 7th in the NFL, compared to dropping down to 17th in rushing yards per game in losses. And then this is against this New Orleans team that just really struggled to slow down the run last year. They were 30th in yards per carry allowed to running backs, 31st in success rate. They were 26th in allowing a first down or touchdown on 20.5% of those runs. And then Connor also averaged 5 yards on inside zone runs last year. That was 5th in the league. Saints were dead last in yards per carry allowed on inside zone runs. It really just all sets up for Connor to be in like a really advantageous spot. Everyone's been telling you all summer that if you're in a league that drafts defenses, you need to draft the Cardinals. Every time someone told that to me, I was like, oh, so I really just want James Conner to open the season, right? And then we're getting that run out for him.
The least sexy player, right? Just like there's nothing about him that's sexy, but he just gets the job done, and the matchup is prime. Yeah, sure. He's got to be in your pool. Running backs, what else do you have for us, Daigle?
I will add on Alvin Kamara, like we already talked about. Other side of James Conner, who's going to be much higher rostered. Spencer Rattler last year, when he started, targeted running backs at the 7th highest rate in the league. I think he's a player just given the depth, which is practically like last year. Maybe it's not the same since it's under Kellen Moore, not Dennis Allen this time around. But given the depth with only Devin Neal and Kendry Miller behind him, I would think Kamara is still out there, even if it's a blowout situation. So still like playing him. And then in that environment, Ibuka obviously is going to be heavily played. Bucky Irving, I think, is really interesting too, just because we saw him take over the backfield from Rachaad White. And yes, it was Liam Cohen. Josh Grizzard comes from the same was internally promoted, who was under Liam Cohen last year. So we think it's going to be the same type of usage, but it was Bucky Irving who was healthy. The splits are really wonky because Irving left a couple games injured, but when he was healthy, he was the one who was handling a majority of the team's touches over Rachaad White. And then also this Falcons defense under Raheem Morris last year actually led the league in catches allowed per game to opposing running backs. So while everyone plays Ibuka, I'm not saying like you can't play him still. Bucky does stand out in this like lost no man's land of ownership, despite having a ceiling that we think is a top 5 like ceiling on this slate.
Daigle, what about Jacobs and Gibbs, two of the more interesting running backs for the season? 47.5 total. We might be a little bit more interested if this game is being played on the turf in Detroit, but it's not late season monsoon or snow or nothing like that. By the way, I saw Kevin Roth. He does have a weather report, and we don't really talk weather here on a Wednesday night, obviously, but just know going forward, if you ever want to see some weather stuff, check out Roth stuff. And
or on September,
as of right now,
or week 1 September.
Yeah. But you know how people always say, like, it's going to rain, and like
the golf stuff. You'll get the
yeah. I mean, we're talking 4 days out, so of course adjust. With new information, I'm allowed to change my mind, that kind of thing. But as we see right now, no real anticipation of anything goofy weather-wise week 1. Daigle, how do you feel about Gibbs and Jacobs? I think 2 running backs that are being kind of, sort of, somewhat ignored.
I have, like we talked about with the 49ers Seattle, although we all lean under, which makes me feel better. I don't know what to do with the Green Bay Detroit game because there are so many moving pieces. We're talking about 3 new interior linemen for Jared Goff, who we've said now, again, this is our 6th season. We've said now for 6 seasons in a row, Jared Goff, when you can crack the offensive line and put him under pressure, that's when he crumbles. We don't know if Micah Parsons is going to play, but Parsons led the league in pressure rate last year, which you would think with 3 new starting offensive linemen and no more Ben Johnson, like that could be the bugaboo for Detroit's offense and Jared Goff and them just all reaching their ceiling. Gibbs, that'd still be probably good for him. But for Josh Jacobs, given that last year we saw career lows across the board and pass rate over expectation, pass attempts per game, neutral pass rate under Matt LaFleur. We think that's because Jordan Love suffered 2 injuries. And so if this is a team that wants to pass more, are they still going to do that without Jaden Reed? Like if they're throwing out Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden, and Dontavian Wicks instead. And I just don't know. I really don't know how to handle it.
And the Lions have a lot of just moving parts. They're getting, their defense. They're getting, Hutchinson back, but they also upgraded potentially with DJ Reed from Carlton Davis, who went to New England. So DJ Reed's been excellent the last couple of years outside of playing outside of Sauce Gardner. So they also get Alex Anzalone. But I remember that when we left off this Lions defense, like they were just beat the shit. Like they just had dudes in and out of the lineup, and they closed the season defensively with like basically a shell of what they had put on the field for 3/4 of the year. How healthy are they? And the same thing, like Daigle talk about like the Lions, like all the moving parts, right? Like you don't have Ben Johnson, Frank Ragnow retires, Kevin Zeitler leaves in free agency. You're shuffling all these pieces. There's just a lot to kind of, figure out what kind of, ceiling we have here and what this offense is going to look like. I feel similarly to the Green Bay game, which we didn't cover. I feel similar to the Colts game. It's not a game where I'm playing a lot of individual pieces, but it is a game in single entries I'm just going to stack just to see. And then, like, if it doesn't hit, whatever.
And I see the total. Reason. The total has come up, too, on that Lions-Packers game. And I just keep looking at it, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm really not sure.
47.5, Green Bay, a 2.5 favorite, 2.5 point favorite. Not the full three, but 2.5 point favorite at home versus Detroit. So one of those four games that have the highest total on the main slate board. Was anything else as far as running backs, or shall we jump to receivers?
No, I think that was it. Bucky was the last guy I had too.
I wanted to make a case for Tony Pollard, but I can't get there in this kind of slate. Yeah, I know.
When you look at the history of year one quarterbacks and rookie quarterbacks that have in week one, it is absolutely horrendous. And when you look at teams that going into Denver, like in weeks 1 and 2, absolutely horrendous. It's just not a spot. It's just not a spot to like get excited about it because Ayo Manor, I'm surprised no one mentioned him. Like where his salary is, it's just real hard.
It's the one bet I have. I bet it a couple weeks ago as far as the week. I bet Denver at home. I'm bullish on Ward. I think he's going to be good.
Yeah, big picture.
Tough. It's a tough landing spot. I'm told that Denver is the best defense in football. If not the best, they're on the podium. Opening your career on the road and Mile High. I think I got it 7 or 7.5. I can't recall what it was, but I feel like it's probably going to be tough sledding for Tennessee. Although Pollard is really cheap, is the best argument for him. And,
right.
The backfield essentially should be his. But yeah, I don't know how many points they actually.
That'd be a thing too. Is like you just don't really need it though, right? Like
that's because
that's the problem.
And plus, you'd be arguing in another week. I definitely play him and just cross my fingers for the usage that he explodes.
Yeah, he would be like a typical cash game play in most weeks.
Yeah,
but just not this one.
Can't get there. Yep, I agree.
Just not this one.
I wrote him down and I scratched him out. I was like,
three running back lineups could be the way to go this week because a lot of people are going to look at all these cheap receivers. But I mean, you could do CMC, Bucky, Connor, CMC, Chase Brown. Those four guys, I think, are just so good, such good plays. Like you could play 3 of those guys pretty easily.
That is what I'm seeing, by the way. I ran some stuff, and Chase Brown, most popular. Achane, second most popular. Connor.
We didn't talk about it. Like, what if he doesn't get touches inside the 5? Like it still exists in the range of outcomes. We know the PPR stuff is real, especially playing at Tua. But last year when Raheem Mostert was healthy, Mostert out-touched him inside the 5. And like, what if they give Ali Gordon like just a chance? And if he punches in that first one, like we'll see, man. We'll see.
McDaniel warned us. He told us he might get all the touches or somewhere. So you never know. He let us know.
Yeah, it's not a range of outcomes where we're going to play Ollie Gordon, even though like Ollie Gordon's going to end up in the Millie Maker because the way the week 1 Millie Maker works every year is some dumb rookie who didn't play at all in the preseason takes it down like Roshan Johnson year. But yes, that is one of the concerns for me when I have Tua double stack is that Ollie Gordon's just going to punch in all the touchdowns and I'm left with nothing.
Well, week 1 is such a big, we want to see some cards revealed. And like, that's one of the cards we want revealed. Like there's a few teams like inside like when the Bears get inside the 5, we want to see what happens, right? Like we want to see what they do. Same thing with the Vikings. We have a good idea, but like both those guys were so bad inside the 5 last year. And it's 2 years in a row for Aaron Jones. But it's just like we're looking for like last year. Remember, we were in that boat with James Cook. We were saying, James Cook for 2 years has like they were using Latavius Murray, and then the door got unlocked for James Cook. He got those carries, and he still gave some way to Josh Allen, but we saw the touchdown boom. So like it's like we're waiting to see kind of what happens. For a lot of teams, that's one of the cards.
Washington too, right?
Yeah.
Washington is
one.
The Giants supposedly.
The Giants still could be a team that they don't use Tyrone Tracy inside the 5. Like there's a lot of these early card revealed scenarios that we're just looking to be flipped.
I mean, we might not learn anything from the Giants in week 1 since Scatterboo was dealing with that hamstring injury all off season. Like that's a situation where it would not be shocking if they use Devin Singletary more, just because like that's how long it takes rookies to ramp up to speed.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the Broncos backfield that could be a little more nebulous than the preseason showed us. Obviously, when you have the Sean Payton history, and he doesn't do much in the preseason that actually is sticky for the regular season. We talked about the Patriots a little bit. We talked about the Browns backfield, the Jaguars backfield. Like, there's a lot of these like backfields, like kind of like Houston? We're just looking for some things to be flipped, right?
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about some receivers. Rich, let's start us off.
Oh, so many receivers. Man, let's start with kind of the obvious one, Big Mike Evans. While everyone is flocking to Emeka Egbuka, which I understand, which I totally understand, but who's the foxhole guy? Who is the end zone target?
Future Hall of Famer.
Coming off of his most receptions per game since 2018. When he came back with Chris Godwin out of the lineup, only Puka Nacua averaged more yards per out run than Mike Evans. With Chris Godwin off the field, 37% of the team targets, 52% of the air yards. Even though he missed 4 games, only Jamar Chase had more targets in the end zone than Mike Evans. He's going against this Falcons team that was 31st in points allowed to opposing wide receiver ones last year. Listen, when the chips are on the table, Baker knows what he's got in Big Mike. And I'm going to play Egbuka too at a salary, and we'll talk about him. But don't forget about Big Mike. He's the foxhole guy. And when all these dominoes fell out for Emeka Egbuka, you know who they also fell out for? Big Mike. So, I mean, I got to start with Big Mike because he looks like optimal leverage on this slate.
Yeah, when you need 20 more yards to get 1,000 yards and the game is already over, Mayfield's
still
going to get you
there. Oh, yeah. Evans always going to get you there.
Otten, what's the Cade Otton? Questionable at this point?
It looks like he's gonna play. If he was practicing early, so that's usually a pretty good sign. So I know Daigle had a prop bet with Peyton Durham, so maybe that won't go. We'll be.
What's the line on Peyton Durham?
You're not gonna believe this, but we had a few beers that night, so
you got a little frisky in the sports book. All right, yeah, I like the Evans call as well. By the way, we were talking about the lack of sexiness for James Conner. He's kind of like the wide receiver version of James Conner, I think. People don't love Mike Evans, but he just gets it done. He always gets it done. See Mike Evans, Daigle, and Rays. What do you got?
No, nothing good. Rich didn't even get to the rest of his either.
There's so many. I don't want to let's ping pong them.
Okay, you're good. Well, I'm going to go down a little bit more and mention Jacoby Myers. We talked about the environment there. Jacoby Myers seemed to be a player who was undervalued in PPR leagues anyways, all offseason. Because remember, when Devontae Adams got traded, Brock Bowers did lead the team with a 30% target share, but Jacoby Myers was right there with a 26% target share. And now he's hovering around a flat $5K when he should be a $6,500 player. Again, in an environment that we want, especially if New England will be missing pieces on defense. So I like Jacoby Myers. He's going to be 1-2% roster on DraftKings, I should say, not FanDuel.
Let's play. Is it good chalk? Is T-Mac good chalk?
Yes.
T-Mac?
Yes.
Egbuka, good chalk?
Yes, but I think good chalk, Rich.
Yes. I would say yes.
Salary relative.
You guys said Pearsall. You kind of a little concerned.
I don't think Pearsall is going to make my pool because I have so many more receivers to get through. I just don't think he's going to make my pool.
Ridley at 5K.
No.
We didn't necessarily love picking on Denver. That's a no. Yeah, good price. Really good price.
The slate is full when we can't even get to Nico Collins. That tells
I'm getting to Nico Collins.
Oh, go ahead. Let's hear Nico Collins.
Oh, I am 100% getting Nico because I actually think this game, from a game stack purposes, is because I think both these teams are going to have to throw a lot, and it's going to get overlooked, and people are going to be scared of the Stafford stuff this offseason, even though he's Wolverine and the dude's going to play, and he's probably going to take the needle, and he never has played in the preseason anyways, and he's thrown for over 300 yards in 3 of the 4 week 1 games with the Rams. But let's start with Nico first because I actually have another receiver in this game I also really like, even if you want to just do a mini. But I think Kyron's going to really struggle to run the football in this game. I definitely believe the Texans are going to struggle to run the football in this game. So I think it's going to be a lot more dropbacks than people think. But obviously we know what we have in terms of Nico, in terms of talent. But when you look at last year, when he was on the field, even, accounting for the games he played, he was just under, 40% of the team air yards, just under 34% of the team targets. In this exhibition period, which, doesn't count for a whole lot, but we saw those guys get to play. CJ Stroud went right back to him, targeted him on 43% of his routes. He had 38% of the team targets from CJ Stroud in the preseason. The Rams were a team we targeted for lead wide receiver production last year. They were trying to get Jair Alexander. They missed out on him. They were trying to potentially, bring Jalen Ramsey back. That didn't happen either. They were 20th in yards per target allowed to opposing wide receiver ones. They were 28th in touchdown rate to opposing wide receiver ones. They were 29th in yards per target allowed to outside wide receivers. They also were a team that was 6th in the league, rate of cover 3. I mean, absolutely, Nico Collins has destroyed cover 3 since he went into the NFL. Anything single high. We also have Nick Caley is going to move him around a little bit more. We're going to see all of the Texans receivers, I think, moonlight in the slot this season. I don't even think Christian Kirk's going to be like a strictly slot receiver. We're going to see him get in 1 to 2 wide receivers, especially early in the years. Jaden Higgins is trying to get his footing, and you might accidentally see Xavier Hutchinson more than we want to in week 1. Don't get scared about week 1. If Jaden Higgins isn't playing as many snaps as you want, just let it ride out. But Nico Collins absolutely looks like a hammer in this game. I think this game is hot from like an underrated stance.
It's one of those ones where the total has been coming down because I believe, well, you mentioned Matthew Stafford. That's true. The Texans offensive line situation is also a questionable one. But it is one of those ones that I also think is extremely volatile, like the Bengals Browns, where like it could go in either direction. And like Jared Verse single-handedly having 6 sacks and ruining this game for everybody is one of those directions that could happen.
I'm not sure if there's anything to this. We always say like Wednesday practice, not that big a deal. Typically, like it's more about Thursday, Friday. But Christian Kirk did not practice today with a hamstring. Is that anything you guys know about, or no, just of note? But that your
was it DNP? I thought it was limited. I don't think it matters on Wednesday, anyways. But I thought it was limited.
Okay. I see. Does not practice with a hamstring. So.
It is great to remember, as we a reminder for week 1, though, that Wednesday practices are not the practice day to care about.
Yeah, I'm just putting this stuff out there before it comes out, because people go, well, they didn't practice on this day, and like we always talk about later in the week.
There are some injuries that are out there that are definitely scary, but to keep an eye on for the rest of the week.
What are the ones? What do we not talk about as far as injuries that are worth monitoring?
Well, definitely Patrick Ricard. If Patrick Ricard doesn't play in that game and Isaiah likely already isn't going to play, that was like Baltimore's entire leverage on the Bills last year because, Sean McDermott wants to play base. He wants to play sub package, base nickel, and the Ravens went bully ball on that. That's like they tried to play bully ball like every time, and then the Bills got that lead and were able to game script Henry out in the fourth quarter of the last game. But with Ricard on the field last year, Derrick Henry averaged 7.5 yards per carry in 2 games against the Bills. And like we know they're not going to have as much 2 tight end stuff. Like that's one to watch. We talk about Austin Jackson. That's a huge one to watch. For the Dolphins, definitely keep an eye on that one. Those are the 2 that definitely stick out. But
so bet the Bills if Ricard's not playing. That's what I heard.
Well, yeah, I mean it's definitely something to keep an eye on, though. They're definitely going to be playing DeAndre Hopkins more snaps than they intended to in week 1 than probably when they signed him.
Other receivers, Daigle, we have anybody else? I know you said Rich had a big list. He was yielding to you. Is there anybody else?
Yeah, I want to just pick because there's a lot.
I actually don't think I have as many as you do, Rich. So if you just want to keep on going, like that's fine.
Unload your list.
Like for tournament plays, we kind of just talked about like in the games within the game scripts we enjoyed. I kind of just mentioned the double stacks, which naturally got to like Liggett and Jacoby and like whichever direction I go at quarterback. Since like everyone knows who's been watching for a long time, I play usually mid-high stakes single entry. So I kind of just naturally let the quarterbacks decide my wide receivers outside of one-offs.
Yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. looks like an absolute smash in week 1. I have him as my wide receiver 2 on the week to open the year. We saw him just completely take over the backstretch of last season. And then we're talking about, the stuff we talked about, Trevor Lawrence getting this passing game upgrade. We saw him get the access to slot routes at the end of last year. That's carried over into the preseason where he played in the slot on 37% of his preseason snaps. He was also targeted on 35% of his routes in the preseason with Trevor Lawrence. Like this offense is still going to very much run through him, even with the addition of Travis Hunter. He had targets to spare. And then we talked about, Avero's use of cover 3. As a rookie, he was 7th in yards per out run against cover 3. The only receivers that had more raw receiving yards against cover 3 than Brian Thomas last year were Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamar Chase, and Jamison Williams. Also, Carolina, they were 29th in points allowed per game to wide receiver ones. They also give the most touchdowns in the NFL to wide receiver ones, 13. So BTJ looks like a pretty call too. If you can't get the Lawrence, if you're saying I'm just not going to play Lawrence, I would encourage you to at least move adjacent to Brian Thomas Jr.
Producer TJ here in the chat saying his favorite play is Drake London.
Yep, he's on the list too. I do worry a little bit about the McGarry injury and Todd Bowles blitz packages. Could be kind of a problem. Penix struggled against the blitz in his small sample last year, and they're going to really try. Like Todd Bowles is going to really try out that right side because not only did Caleb McGarry get injured, but their swing tackle Storm Norton is also out for half the year. So that definitely injures a guy like Kyle Pitts, right? Like Kyle Pitts, they're going to need help over on that side of the ball. So you might not even see Kyle Pitts get like a huge snap share because they have to just give help to that right side. The one saving grace is that the Bucs don't have a lot of really good individual pass rushers, but Todd Bowles is definitely going to try to manufacture a pass rush with the blitz because that's what he does. So I do still like London a lot, but the McGarry injury casts a pretty ominous cloud on the Falcons in totality, especially in the run game.
So Pitts, if he's not really going to block anyway, he's not really a blocking tight end, correct? So you're saying he might not be in the field a lot.
Well, if they're having trouble, pass protecting, then you can't go empty. Like you can't go. You can't.
And when you mentioned that game earlier, Rich, that's why I mentioned McGarry, just because I was like, well, we know what's going to happen. Like they're going to blitz his face off. McGarry, Dean, remember, since Penix is left-handed, that's the hardest spot for him. But why I mentioned London though was because he only ran against small sample with Penix last year. But London only ran 29 routes against the blitz, since we think that's coming with Penix last year, and he had a 49% target share against the blitz. So I think we know where the ball's going, which kind of logically tells you when you are average 13 targets per game, like he did as well without Darnell Mooney last season. But London also stands out. Yeah,
I have to have London I pull because of all the Bucs we talked about, like the different ways to play through it. He's because I
do think the tackle situation kind of drowned. Well, I don't want to knock Bijan Robinson because he can always get there. I think it makes life much tougher for him though in this kind of spot.
Yeah, and the Bucs in general were just a team that was built to kind of combat what the Atlanta structurally wants to run the football anyways, because they run so much outside zone. And because Todd Bowles is sending so much, not only pressures in terms of blitz packages to run, he sends a shitload of run blitzes too. And that's how you kind of combat like those outside zones. And, the Bucs were 6th in yards per carry allowed on outside zones. And they were number 1 in the NFL in terms of allowing first down or touchdown rate on those outside zone run concepts. Bijan Robinson had 61 more outside zone run attempts than the next closest running back in the NFL. And don't forget Drew Dahlman leaving also impacts this, because last year with Drew Dahlman on the field, Bijan Robinson had a 52% success rate and a 32.6% rate of first down touchdown rate with Dahlman on the field. And with Dahlman off the field, it went down to 44.9% and 20.5% success rate and then the first down to touchdown rate. So we're down 2 linemen in totality from where we left off with Atlanta as well. It's not just McGarry. So it is a lot to kind of question in terms of Atlanta, but I still think London, when we look up in the box score, is going to have 10, 12 targets though. And then you'll just say fantasy deities take the wheel with that value.
I just had to look and see what his over under prop for receptions are. And you can get it at a lot of juice. You got to pay a lot of juice over 5.5 and about even over 6.5. I was thinking like right along the line, you guys are kind of referencing. Maybe London is in for, even if there are short passes, whatever, we'll take them. A reception is a reception. So I think an interesting little player.
As all past viewers know, this is a betting show.
It is a betting show.
So you mentioned you put out your bet on the ridiculous tight end. Is there anything else out there you want to float for the people as far as any takes when you were either a little bit thirsty or not so much? Either way, any other bet you have there, Daigle?
I don't think there's one, like, you could play any tight end that you want on this slate. Honestly, I don't think there's one guy. This is why we get to the portion of the show, Dean. You tell us who's running.
I have 2 receivers. I have 2 more receivers.
Oh, well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Before we run the optimal and it tells us Njoku for some reason is the cash game play, then
it will. It will. But so I mentioned the Texans game. I think Devontae Adams is no one's going to play this guy. And we flippantly say this often, but I think on this particular slate, he is not going to draw. What is his projected ownership?
Pulling it up right now.
It can't be high, but I'm going to give you this spiel and then you can give it to you at the end. So obviously he had a really good run out. We know that Devontae Adams isn't washed. He's going to slide right. And we saw him get that new life moving into the slot for over 52% of his snaps with the Jets. That was the highest rate of his career. When he joined the Jets, he was third in the NFL in receptions from the slot, fourth in receiving yards. He's going to inherently take over where Cooper Kupp played 64% of his snaps. This is where we want to attack Houston, who has this good defense. But they were excellent against outside receivers, 6th in yards per target, 6th in touchdown rate. Obviously, Stingley and Lassiter are good on the outside, but they got smoked on the inside. They were 21st in yards per target to slot receivers. They had the league high touchdown rate to slot receivers. Where are we going to get some money targets with Demarcus Robinson leaving the Rams, who led the team in end zone targets last year? That's Devontae Adams going to slide right into there too. Devontae Adams also still won outside as well. But when you look at all the high receiving yardage games against the Texans last year, they were all dudes that worked from the slot. Almost everyone got there against them. So he's like my inherent, you want to do a mini. I think you can do Nico Adams as a mini if you want, but if you don't want to extend yourself out in that game. But I do think Devontae Adams is not going to really get any type of looks this week. And then one more gross one to match, try to Daigle on Jacoby Myers. This is a DraftKings only play too, but Chris Olave definitely stands out this week over there. He's another one of these guys that gets this big time coaching upgrade. Well, first of all, Chris Olave is a good football player. I think people feel like they burned, get the concussions, and he isn't maxed out, but he's still been over 2 yards per out run every year of his career. He's only one of a handful of receivers that can say that the last 3 years. He's getting this Kellen Moore bump now, where Kellen Moore has historically moved his receiver around and given his receiver just maximum first read targets. That's going to happen to him. We seen him last year play a career low slot rate. That's going to change. We already seen it in the preseason. He played 39% of his snaps in the slot this preseason. Still over 2 yards per out run on those too. And he's facing this Arizona team that we targeted because Jonathan Gannon plays this passive zone defense, and they just really struggled against slot receivers. Every year that he's been there, they've been a team that we've targeted for slot receiver production, and last year was no different. When we look at kind of a box score for targets, because the touchdown is sketchy for Olave, I do get that. But I think we're going to look up and we're going to see Chris Olave probably be looking at double-digit targets in this game. He's just another guy you can bring back with your James Conner if you want to do something small. I think he's going to catch a bunch of passes, and his first read target share is going to be really, really strong when you look at week 2.
I love the ownership we currently have projected for Olave. 5-1 on DK is a very fair price. We got him at 3% and 1 or 2% on FanDuel. Adams, we had at 4% on FanDuel and around 5% on DK for what it's worth. And I'd be kind of surprised if it gets that high, to be honest, with the way you're talking and the way the slate kind of looks. But Olave, and he's essentially the same price as these rookies. And we know Olave's good. We really know he's good. In a quarterback situation, I don't know, but they're probably playing a little bit of catch up. You got something, John? Feels like you got something.
He also had 100 yards in his one game with Rattler last year. Caveat asterisk that Rashid Shaheed didn't play in that game, but he did have 8 catches for over 100 yards.
And no, I was just going to say, and the ownership's just going to naturally trickle down to everyone we talked about in a 3-game situation. London will probably check in a little bit higher just because everyone's looking to spend up on the other side across from Magbuka. But the others, except for Tet, they won't come with any ownership that you got to worry about.
So just hitting the optimize button, I'm running about 100 or so lineups. I'm adding some variants as well. A little bit different on FanDuel than DK as far as tight end because McBride just seems a little bit too cheap over there in FanDuel at 40%. He's 6'3". As far as the asking price, that feels like something that's going to land in the 7s pretty quickly. And then Kittle, typically, I think just the way lineups are built, you're more apt. At least I'm more apt to spend up on FanDuel, and that's what we're seeing: McBride and Kittle, and then Njoku, then Warren, then Bowers, and on DK, we actually have Sanders at 29%, Njoku 21%, Kraft 17%, Strange getting 9%. Warren, McBride, Kittle and Bowers just not getting any ownership, which is of note because they certainly have a ceiling. What does that do for you, Daigle? Is that kind of sort of somewhat you expected? Latavian Sanders, no Coker. I guess he gets a bump for that.
That and everyone's just looking for the min price tight end around this situation. So I don't think it's too shocking. McBride's ownership is super interesting because like we talked about, James Conner's a good matchup, but he's going to get played. So how do we pivot off of that? Not necessarily you don't have to, especially if your stacks are trickling through the positional plays we talked about, because those quarterbacks are naturally going to be lower rostered. And so you can take the chalk on at McCaffrey and Connor and not worry about it. But yeah, we got to think through it.
Is it just the tight end that your quarterback has, Rich? Obviously, it depends upon the quarterback. Or you have any favorites, any leans when it comes to some tight ends for week one?
We covered most of the guys. I think you can pay up for anyone that you particularly like out of the McBride, Kittle, Bowers range. If you like one of those players, you're not restricted to not get to those guys. You got plenty of avenues to pay for them. As in later in the season, like last year, we kept running into the problem where we knew that Bowers and McBride were really good floor plays and really good sound cash game plays, and it was just always hard to get to them based on the slate because they had distanced themselves in terms of pricing. So often. Remember, we kept playing Kittle because he was like below those guys and just kept chasing touchdowns. Like Daigle brought up Kittle like every week on the show because he was like, there was like a little skip to Kittle and then you were just punting. It kind of feels like where we left off. We're back in the same boat. I did have Brenton Strange on my list as well. I actually already bent his yardage too as well. To open the year. It was a nice little low, 26.5 yards. So I feel pretty strongly about that. It's just a player that's going to get to play full time. I brought up all the stuff with the Jags passing game. I feel pretty strongly about them in this spot. And, Carolina was coming off of just like, they're playing the same defense. Like they're rolling out the same defense. They added defensive linemen, but like they're rolling out the same kind of back end here. And they are coming off of 28th in yards per target to tight ends. 10% touchdown rate. We did see the small sample this preseason of Lawrence. Strange was on the field for 70% of his dropbacks, caught all of his targets. So he's I think by just proxy of me liking Lawrence more than some of the people that were in the chat, is going to get me there.
I forgot I mentioned Juwan Johnson down there as well. If you're looking to spin down and just pivot away, even though Strange and those guys, again, not going to carry ownership, so you're not too worried about it. But the Saints backup right now, since Taysom Hill, I think Jack Stoll may also be injured. Like their backup is their 7th round rookie who was a blocking tight end in college. It's all Juwan Johnson after he got $24 million guaranteed in free agency.
Molokai Medaveo is also a person that may play tight end.
That's the 7th rounder. That's the 7th rounder.
Okay. All right. There you go. That's what I see here in the depth chart. Our Saints insider, producer TJ, is reminding us of the quote from Rattler. Yep. He said before the start of last season.
Don't highlight that one. Don't highlight the first one. Yeah.
My job is to get Chris Olave the ball as much as I can. We're going to bring TJ here in just a second because we're winding down. I want to get one more thing before we pivot to our little movie section. That's an hour and a half, 90 plus minutes. If you had the over was an absolute lock. Cash your ticket. Give me your favorite stack. Your favorite stack, all things considered. Daigle, you go first.
I already like the Panthers. So the way Hribar described the Jaguars makes me super interested in that game. But I still think I'm also naturally interested in Patriots Raiders. I'll say Patriots Raiders.
And that's Drake May, I assume.
Drake May side. Yeah, Drake May side.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure. I know you hyped him up earlier. I just wanted to be clear. I presume that's where you're at. All right, Rich.
It's interesting. One of the guys we didn't talk about that is drawing for a little bit of interest is JT is showing up in like points per dollar stuff and things.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting because the Patriots really retooled that front. And, obviously they're going to get Barmore back, but they spent a lot of money, on Milton Williams. The front looks pretty good.
Yes.
So you're getting a road dog too, running back that's a road dog. But I did see JT was drawing a little bit of early week interest. I'm curious to see where he ends when we get there.
People want to play him, right? He's a fun player roster, I imagine. He's the mystery box to some degree. People like the mystery box.
It could be about.
It could be. It could be like a goose. Rich, what do you got? You see the New England stack.
Yeah, I do love the Jaguars Panther side. Lawrence, BTJ, Strange plus Tet is really kind of a great starting point to where you can do a lot of good things.
All right, we are going to, if this is your first time here, that's the end of the football. We don't go anywhere. We talk a little bit of movies. All of us like movies. Producer TJ loves movies. He has a site dedicated to such things. And I think we're going to bring in Rob. I was going to call him producer Rob. He does producing things. Has produced a show before, bounces around, talks about places that are haunted. He does 36-hour streams. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. We may get Rob. He might still be napping. He might still be recovering from his 36-hour stream of drafting best ball teams. But any second here, we're going to be bringing in TJ's Lawrence. We're going to be talking about our movie this week. Typically, the 5 of us join a contest, and whoever wins that contest assigns a movie for the rest of us to watch and talk about on the next show. This was week 1. There was no contest to enter, so we just kind of, as a group, decided, hey, we're going to talk about Interstellar because producer TJ had this bright idea. He said, you know what? I'm going to start watching good movies. And TJ said, I'm going to watch Interstellar because I've heard good things about it. And that kind of triggered the rest of us saying, hey, we've seen that before. Let's talk about that. Week 1, TJ, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me in. Great job as always, fellas. Happy to be back for another year. Yeah, I mean, a little bit of an oversimplification, but yeah, like you said, I run a site called agentsofandom.com where I talk about movies and TV shows. And I realized, as somebody who talks about movies all the time, I have too many either blind spots or movies I saw once, in my teens, in my 20s as a kid, and I didn't quite absorb it as I properly should have. Sorry, as my cat's going crazy here.
Loves this movie.
So yeah, I started out with Interstellar was my first one, knocked off both Kill Bills, Good Will Hunting, No Country for Old Men, just like Boogie Nights, just like a whole bunch of classics, one after another. Today I watched American Gangster, and I'm trying to get 1 movie in per day on weekdays, 2 in on weekends, and just trying to knock off some classics.
Well, I hope you enjoyed it because I don't know if you remember what happens on this show, but you're going to watch a bunch of movies that you do not enjoy over the course of the next series.
Hey, how dare you? Tiptoes was a great cinema. That is producer Rob. Rob, I keep saying producer Rob. I don't know why I call you that. That's where my brain goes. It's Rob Coakley. Are you back to life now after your 36-hour, streaming of best balls? What was your next 24 hours after that? You are now officially you're calling Guinness as the person that streamed the longest amount of time for best balls. Is that correct? Does anybody beat you?
And when did you get tired?
Oh, there was 2 points in that stream that I got super tired. I started at 9 a.m.
That poor chair.
Oh my god, my chair broke on hour 13. It's still broken. Oh yeah, buddy. It's
playing injured.
We had a whole situation where I ended up autoing Joe Mixon. I lost my mind, and yeah, it was not a great time. But around 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. and then the second time that Dean jumped on, I started hallucinating. And Dean, I think I might have even told you, I'm like, I don't know what we're talking about right now. I don't even know what team I'm drafting at this moment. And then I got it together, but we got through. We got through 36 hours straight of drafting best ball teams. Also, I just want to say, John, you are my brother, and I would follow you to the gates of hell. But there is no way that I am ever playing Jacoby Myers on DFS this week.
Just wait, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Daigle takes it as a badge of honor. He feels like he won.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to compliment his shirt because you're a big wrestling guy. Did you notice the shirt he's wearing?
No, whenever, you know how it works. Whenever someone starts complimenting you, that means they're about to dunk on you in their next statement.
I wouldn't put my NWO shirt on to match Daigle tonight because I saw the Scott Hall shirt. So we coordinated.
For those that are not aware, Interstellar, it came out in 2014. It's 2 hours and 49 minutes. It's a long movie. There's a little synopsis here from IMDb. When Earth becomes uninhabitable in the future, a farmer and ex-NASA pilot Joseph Cooper is tasked to pilot a spacecraft, along with a team of researchers to find a new planet for humans. This, of course, was directed by Christopher Nolan, written by the Nolan brothers. And I want to go to TJ first because you saw it most recently. This is a movie that's brand new to you. All of us have seen it at some point, probably multiple times. It feels like a movie you should see on the big screen. It's so big. And the sound is so big too. It just feels like it's incredible. And I'm fairly certain they re-released it last year and I missed it on IMAX stuff. Yeah. So that's, if you ever get a chance to see us in the big screen, it feels like an incredible movie with a theater size screen. But how did you feel seeing Interstellar for the first time?
Of all of the classics that I've watched so far, I think this might be my personal favorite. I'd have to go through and see. I don't know if this would be the one that I would rank the highest critically of all the ones that I've gone through, but I do think this would be my favorite of the group. Above all other things, I prioritize story in terms of like what I enjoy most in a movie. Like if it has great visuals and all these cool thematic elements, great. But like what I care most about is a story, and I like to theorize where it's going to go. And it doesn't really matter to me if it gets all wacky and crazy like Interstellar does in Act 3. I love that shit. Like that's so much fun to me. And so performances were incredible. Some fun twists and turns. I don't know if we want to talk like full spoilers yet, but some fun.
It's been 10 years.
I mean, this movie's been out 10 years.
Fun twists and turns. I didn't know if we were like I don't remember how our reviews work, right? I can't remember if I was supposed to start spoiler free before we dive in. But
Is that
Just
Rob,
warn everyone.
Yeah, Rob.
Spoiler.
Our reviews work that Rob comes in and tells everyone you're getting spoiled and then starts spoiling it.
Matt Damon appears an hour and 35 minutes into the movie. Just, hey, there's Matt Damon.
It was so funny because it's exactly how you said that is I'm texting my friend who was asking me for like live reactions, and I was like, oh, hey there, Matt Damon. Like that's what I texted. And then my next message is, oh no, Matt Damon, what are you doing? Oh no. And
he turned heel.
It was funny because like until 5 seconds before that happens, it felt like a big surprise. But then as it's leading up to it, the score is telling you exactly that that's about to happen. And so it's an incredible score, incredible story, wonderful acting. Little bit long, but I had the benefit of watching it at home. Like as much as this would have been great on the big screen, it was fantastic to watch at home, be able to press pause, go to the bathroom, get some snacks. I actually went to the golf simulator halfway through this movie with some friends and then came back home afterwards and finished it up. And so, yeah, it's of the multitude of great movies I've watched recently, it might be my favorite.
It's not The Brutalist. It's not that long where you gotta get out of the house.
That wasn't a new one because I just had plans. And so I popped out, golfed 18 holes on a simulator on a rainy night, and then finished it after.
The cast is spectacular. McConaughey, Hathaway, Jessica Chastain, John Lithgow is a small part. This is basically the first time we saw Timothée Chalamet. You didn't know it at the time.
One of them. Yeah, one of them.
Yeah. This is essentially he was on the second season of Homeland, but again, you didn't really know who he was. But obviously, he's a big star now. Rob, your thoughts, your take when it comes to Interstellar.
This was the first time I watched it. Was today. I hadn't seen this movie before either. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, the movie itself, like the visuals are incredible in this movie. Mm-hmm. I have to preface this with I'm not a big space guy movie. Like I just don't like space movies generally too much. But the visuals in this were great. The acting is obviously great. Christopher Nolan is always going to shoot the movie very well. But I just think that this movie is good and just good. Nothing better than good. And there is some dumb shit in this movie.
I will say this is a movie for you guys that have seen it once. I think it's better the more times you see it.
Yes, I agree.
Does the fact that they are able to find where they're supposed to go because of the power of love, does that make more sense the second time you watch it? Because that's some dumb shit in this movie that I did not like.
Because it's saying that like when there are alternate extra dimensions to life we cannot see, it's like feeling of love or like a gut feeling, like that is something that has happened throughout the plane of time and space that you can't see, that you can't put our words on because our minds don't comprehend it. I got it from that perspective.
We're trying to save the world here, TJ, and I don't want the power of love guiding my spaceship to where I needed to go in that aspect. But overall, it is a very good movie. I just think there was some dumb stuff. I think there were some great acting performances. I actually really like the ending of this movie too. The ambiguity of the ending. I know like what we're supposed to think, but is that really what's happening at the end? So that's stuff I liked. I mean, I think he's going to the planet with her to help restart civilization, like to create the civilization that they're going to create on that planet. But you don't know that for sure. Like there's no 100% on that.
Some of the best acting in this movie for me is like McConaughey watching, the video from back home. Obviously, there's like gifs of this, the crying, and you're just kind of watching the progression and then kind of giving up on him essentially. And the score in the back of that is just absolutely insane. And of course, like him seeing his daughter as an older woman is really, really powerful as well. But Hribar, what do you have as far as Interstellar?
Yeah, I remember this movie came out. Super, super good movie. And then I remember at the end, obviously anytime you get the space-timey, wimey stuff, it takes a little bit more to like gel. And it gets better with the more like I think this movie gets better on subsequent views. But forget the movie, forget the cinematography. Let's talk about the true MVP of the movie, because there's one character that completely fucks in this movie, and it's Tars. Tars is the goddamn MVP of this movie.
Wow.
Yeah, there's no person. First of all, he saved everyone's life, because if he didn't disable the autopilot on manned ship, like he would have docked with them and took off. Like the Tars is the MVP all the way. Tars is out here saving everyone's lives. I think it's Alan Tudyk is Tars' voice too. So like, yeah, listen, Tars is what I will
Bill
always
Irwin.
remember for this movie. Who is it?
Bill Irwin?
I don't know who Bill Irwin is, but Tars is the absolute go to this movie. Tars fucks. That's what you need to remember.
Are we all going to have a Tars one of these days? Like in like 20 years, are we all going to have our own personal Tars?
Not us. We're fucked.
If there was one available, like what would you pay? If the one was in the market at Costco, you walk in the Costco, they're trying to sell you a Tars. What's a fair price?
The Tars, there's no dollar amount. It's whatever, like I would do it. I'd have to play a lot more Trevor Lawrence this week to make it happen.
Daigle, what do you got?
I love that you came to me last, because you didn't plan for this, but unfortunately, I only made it to the part, and this is my first time watching it today. I only made it to the part where Matt Damon emerges from the goo. So I have not seen the ending yet to Interstellar. But I'm hanging with my boys, so it's okay. It's fine. I'm going to finish it tonight after the show. I'm going to order pizza, and that's for my dinner after a long day of working. So I'm going to hang around, but I should see myself out otherwise from this review.
I like how Rob would have like Neil deGrasse Tyson on us. Like, that doesn't work science-wise, I think was kind of his big issue. Was that
it's just they were so like specific about all the science and the equations behind everything. It's like, yeah, we're just going to follow the power of love now. And it's just like, come on, dude. Like, what are we doing here?
Find it interesting though, because they exhausted all the science, like everything was tried, and then it comes down to like what draws us to other people. Like what makes us so connected to certain individuals, what puts us off so aggressively from other people's, outside of like, you were raised to believe certain things and this person is the opposite of that, so you don't vibe with them. Like, I don't mean that so much as like, sometimes you walk into a room and you can just tell like, oh, I'm going to hit it off with this person. I am not. And sometimes you fall in love with somebody and you want to be with them the rest of your life. Like, why? Like what?
We live very different lives. I walk into a room and the anxiety just comes over me, and I just start sweating.
I'm not somebody that takes edibles. I don't know if that's a sign.
What if anxiety was the final dimension and it wasn't love? What if it was anxiety? That
would make more sense to me. Yeah, it hit me. It would resonate with me more.
Well, that's where we're headed. That's and anyone under 25 just lives with existential anxiety.
I feel like this is a good movie for edibles, is what I was about to say. Like, I'm not endorsing them. I don't take them.
I think this movie is way more creative than Inception, which gets way more credit. But because I feel like Inception, for being a movie about dreams, is actually on rails. Like they could do so much. He could have done so much more in terms of like exploring like just zaniness of dreams. And they're like, what if we just do like a James Bond scene? And like, I feel like all the dream stuff in Inception could have been a lot better, a lot more creative, and gone even further than just some of the cool visuals they did. They could have really like plunged into some really cool shit, and I feel like they held back on it.
I don't want to ruin our IMDb game, our Rotten Tomatoes game, which we'll do in just a second, but I thought it was interesting. I saw the rankings of Christopher Nolan movies, and he has 12, really 11. I don't think you should count Following is kind of a small movie that he made before Memento, and it kind of sort of was a precursor to Memento. But this movie is second to last as far as critics review.
I get
critics' approval on Rotten Tomatoes. You get it. Well, you know it's last, right? I assume you know it's last. What would you guess is last?
It's got to be either Insomnia or Tenet, right?
Tenet, yeah.
Yeah.
But this has the same problem like people have with Tenet. A lot of people just don't understand the last like 35 minutes of this movie.
What's going on? Can you explain Tenet? I know it's not a Tenet review, but Tenet, I'm not afraid to admit I don't think I know what's happening in that movie.
Tenet and Interstellar are the two Nolan ones, or not Interstellar. Sorry, Tenet and Inception are the two of the next ones on my list to watch.
And I think Inception's good. I just think they could have done. I think that the dream stuff actually is more on rails than I think it could have been like absolutely zany.
Who loves the spinning of time more than Christopher Nolan? Anybody? The bending of time than Christopher Nolan? He's that's his thing. That's his go-to. Telling, being nonlinear as well as far as telling his stories.
Also, the ghost was super obvious, right? We all figured that out within 5 seconds.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Well, they try to. Well,
as soon as he started doing wonky stuff,
the red herring
super obvious.
The red
Sounds
herring
like
is they try to make you think aliens created the Tesseract. That's not what happened. It was the future humans.
Sounds like someone who hosts a podcast with the word ghost in it.
It's always ghosts, of course.
Fair. Touche.
Can't wait. Next time one of your shows, you're like, we heard this at this location. I can't wait to just pop in and be like, you idiot. That's so obviously your dad from the future.
But because this movie has such good performances, I think it's easy to go back to. Whereas Tenet, I would love to go back and watch Tenet to maybe pick up on some more of what the story is actually trying to tell, but it just doesn't have the same performances, like nowhere close to this. And that's the problem. Like John David Washington's like way out of his skis in that movie. You have Aaron Taylor Johnson, who's like been out of his skis in like a bunch of things. Elizabeth Debicki, like it's just not
8 years.
What's that?
He's been out of his skis for the last 8 years.
Yeah,
he
and that's
was
the problem.
Noticeable in Nosferatu. That I love Nosferatu, but he was like noticeable versus the rest of the cast of that movie.
I do still want to watch Craven just to try to live. I haven't been able to bring myself to do it.
I've never watched a Sony Marvel Spider-Man verse movie adjacent other than the Venoms. Like I've not watched Morbius, I've not watched Craven, not watched Madam Web, and I refuse to go to any of them.
Well, wait till I win, buddy.
Oh yeah,
TJ, I don't know what's on the rest of your list, but move Tenet down your list a little bit. I imagine there's a lot better movies. I mean, do what you want with your list, but maybe not have Tenet's too high on your list. And you know when you watch it,
it's not just like award-winning movies I want to watch, but also like I want to get through almost everything from a director. Like I've gone through everything Tarantino now. So like I'd like to do the same for Nolan, like do the same for Scorsese, etc.
As you should. I think that's a good call. You know what? Put it at the top and explain Tenet to me after you watch it, because I'm curious. I need to know. I don't know what the heck's happening in Tenet at least half the time. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll do our scores after this. But first, let's go ahead and guess Rotten Tomatoes. We'll go give you the critics.
Well, you kind of teased us a little bit too.
I said I didn't want to ruin the game, but there's going to be a lot of high scores on the board. So, it's tough competition. He's competing against himself, right? So do with that what you will. Do with that what you will. And Rich, you can set the line for us. Give me the critics and the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes first.
So you said this is the second lowest Nolan movie.
I did.
So that makes me want to say it was like C plus range. So like I'll just say 75% for critics and probably higher for audience. I bet audience was because Nolan has like the film Nolan boy. Like they're never gonna he'll probably never have a bad fan. Like Tenet probably has an okay fan rating, right?
He's got a high. There's definitely a Christopher Nolan high.
I'll say that's what I mean, because Nolan is just such a popular director. I'll say it's 75 critics, 85 audience.
Rob?
I'm going to go 82 critics, and I'm going to go 93 audience.
TJ?
I apologize. I was just helping a friend with the draft, so I missed people's scores. So tell me if I accidentally double down. I will go 89 critics, 93 audience.
John, you're playing with a handicap here, but you get to go last.
90 critics, which is the dollar bid over TJ, and 85 audience.
Okay, so 73% is the critics. 73%, that's out of 375 critics. So, and again, that's the second lowest score. he's got a lot of big scores, obviously. The audience, you guys were correct in your assessment. I know Hribar said, I think 85? 87 is the answer. I think you said 85?
Yeah,
87. So the audience is on board. Interstellar for IMDb. Remember, like a 9. There's like, I don't know, 5 or 6, maybe 7 9s all time on IMDb, 1 through 10. We'll let John go last again, but TJ, you go first.
I will go 7.7.
Rob.
I'll go 7.4.
Rich.
Well, you said this was an 87% fan at Rotten Tomatoes, which I think is more, the fan vote's almost a more accurate representation for the IMDb game. So I'll say 8.3. Low 8.
John.
Well, I was going to say 8.1.
I thought Rich was going to bake it. He said 87%. I thought you were just going to move a decimal point over.
It was 8.7.
8.7%.
Wow.
Yeah, 8.7%.
I was trying to lower a little bit for the like inherent thumbs up, thumbs down thing, but
all right. Well, I don't know. And John, you usually have a wrestler for us to kind of, as your review, but you've only seen half of it. Is there a wrestler notorious for just wrestling half a match and just kind of walking off? Doink or something? I don't know.
No. Everyone's going to have to take the wrestling shirt this week. Wrestling reviews will return next week.
I'm going to steal your wrestling bit for the week.
Okay.
I'll go to my stars next week.
Okay.
This is a Karrion Kross. The presentation is great. The character work is amazing. And the ring work is good, but still leaves a little to be desired. So I think this is a Karrion Kross.
TJ, you got a superhero?
This is the Beyonder. It's confusing. It's a guy who bends time and space to create realities. I'm going to pivot, actually. I want to pivot to another space movie that just came out.
You were selling me. I was like, I'm going to Google this guy.
Because I'm picking somebody with similar abilities, but I'm going with somebody even more powerful who has recently been introduced into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm going Franklin Richards, because he is going to play a big, very big role in the convoluted, potentially confusing space storyline that Marvel has coming up, just as this is a somewhat convoluted and confusing space movie. But it's also, for me, one of my favorite movies I've seen in the last few years. And Secret Wars, which I was talking about referencing for Marvel, is their biggest event of all time. So I think it fits.
I'm going to give it a 90 out of 100. I think this movie is awesome. It's huge. The ideas are big. The music is big. The scale is big. The presentation, the credibility of the actors, the acting is big. I love it. And I think it's super rewatchable as well. I think it's crazy that Interstellar is the second lowest ranked Nolan movie. Now he's got a great catalog, but I would move it up personally.
And on IMDb.
Same.
Say it again.
Is that on IMDb?
I think that was the Rotten Tomatoes score we were talking about. Only 73% of critics that's not bad, but that is the second lowest score, with Tenet being behind it as far as his personal catalog, mostly because
I think
his catalog rocks.
Probably my second favorite of his I've seen so far.
What's your favorite?
Dark Knight.
Yeah.
By a significant. Dark Knight, I think, is probably my favorite movie of all time.
And I almost don't count that as the Nolan movie, just because it's like it's like really not his IP. But
it's funny because I almost don't count it as a superhero movie.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Have you seen The Prestige, TJ?
Not yet. That's high on the list.
Put that on the list.
Higher than Tenet. Don't worry.
Prestige is good.
That's his That's his most underrated movie, right?
Maybe. It's really good. Rich.
I have to see Tenet, Prestige, Inception, Insomnia.
You just gotta
Insomnia, I think, is the low. That's low man for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Apparently the original's better. It's like a Swedish remake. I haven't seen the original. But I thought it was good. That's De Niro and Robin Williams.
Pacino, right? Or is there, no, it's Robin Williams. It is Robin Williams, right?
Pacino and Robin Williams. Yeah.
Pacino and Robin Williams.
Hilary Swank, maybe? Is Hilary Swank in that as well?
Yes.
I think she might be in that too. we have to close out, and we're closing out with a tight end. What tight end, Rich, is Interstellar?
You know, I was looking for a tight end like for Cooper, and there really isn't one. And then I was like, well, about Murphy? And there really wasn't one. And then I realized the best character in the movie is Tars anyways. So I'm going to go with Pete Metzelaars. If you remember Pete Metzelaars from the Buffalo Bills. So that's a Tars. For the GOAT of the movie, there's one true hero of this movie, and some people might think it was Cooper or Murphy, but it is Tars. Tars is the hero of this film.
Pete Metzelaars' career started in 1982 to 1997. Man, 16-year run. Good
He was
for
part
him.
of the K-Gun Bills, baby.
That was his best season that I'm seeing here. Taking a peek as far as most yards he ever had is 609 yards in 1993 for the Buffalo Bills. Got in the box 4 times with 68 catches. Yeah, I guess he was a part of those losing Super Bowl teams, at least a couple of them. Yeah. All right, so shout out. I did not anticipate Pete Metzelaars to be mentioned on the show, but that's why you listen. That's
Someone needs to keep a catalog for us so we never repeat these. I don't think I've repeated the tight end.
Yeah, we're beyond that, buddy.
So we have someone to have. Where's the Pick Six wiki? Like,
somebody check the archives and get the Wikipedia working. I'll donate the wiki if we all of a sudden pop up there next week. All right, it's 2 hours. It's the brand new season for NFL. Tell the people where they can find you. They know. I assume they know at this point, but if they don't, it's a brand new season. There's probably some new people. Rich, tell the people where they can find you, find your content, all that good stuff.
Yeah, sharpfootballanalysis.com. Writing up every game every week, DFS plays every week. If you made it to this point of this marathon in week 1, you can use promo code SHARP40, and for week 1, do 40% off. And come aboard. We want to try to bring you in for the season. You come aboard because we're going to win some money this year.
Daigle?
By the time people are listening to this in podcast form, I really cannot believe there will be football that evening. So just remember that Establish the Run. I do the waiver wire column. It'll be waiting there for you by Monday evening next week. And as we know, week 2 is always the longest column of the season just because there's so much data and people to pick up, all to turn around. So establistherun.com. We have everything you need.
John helping you figure out what you should and should not overreact to from week 1. Rob, what do you got?
You could probably catch my ghost from the future traveling back in time to tell me not to do a 36-hour stream. But after that, you can go over to Spike Week, where we do a lot of best ball content. But we also just started doing a weekly show for survivor pools, and I will spoil my big pick this week. Rich was talking them up quite a bit. I like the Jaguars as leverage off the field for survivor tournaments this week. Everyone's going to be playing Denver and Arizona, and I think that playing the Jaguars this week is huge leverage. Patriots are like a sneaky pick for me as well, but you can catch me over there. So that's what I'm doing football wise.
TJ, close us out.
Football wise, I am doing lots of stuff. I'll be on the RotoGrinders Tournament Takes podcast this weekend with Derek Farnsworth, Notorious, and Chris Kirkwood. Plus, I will also be on the Blitz Show with Derek Carty and Alex Dunlap. And then on Sunday, I'll be producing the whole block. So we got you, Dean, coming up on Grinders Live first thing in the morning with the People's Show with Tim and Bobby. We got GPP Final Take Show with Eric Beimfor, Neil Orfield, and Jordan Vanek. And then myself and the Chief, Will Priester, will be leading everybody right up to lock for crunch time. Plus, I'll be there behind the scenes, the whole thing. And then if you want some more of my movie and TV takes, you can head over to agentsoffandom.com. Follow us on socials at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. Subscribe to us on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Right now on the podcast, we have a weekly show talking about all the new comic books that drop each week. Plus, we are also covering weekly episodes of Peacemaker. Next show, a couple shows we got on the docket. We have Gen V from the Boys universe. We'll be talking Marvel Zombies because Marvel is releasing their animated 18 plus horror cartoon that's coming out in a couple weeks. And so I have actually an interview for that coming up shortly for Agents Fandom.
Trailer looked pretty interesting.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I'll be talking to the head of Marvel Television next week, so you can find that over on Agents Fandom.
Do appreciate those of us, of y'all that's stuck around this long. If you listened in years past, welcome back. If you're new, welcome aboard. It's going to be a fun season for Daigle, for Rich, for TJ, for Rob, for Pete Metzelaars. This was the NFL Pick 6 show. I was Dean. Go win something. We're out of here. Oh!